A glorious dawn is upon us here for day 2 of the Rolex 24 at Daytona, minutes away from official sunrise on the beach.
Here at Daytona, time plays tricks on your mind, slowing down and speeding up in ways that seem irrational. You expect that for a crewman in the pits, time is going to creep by, and it does. And it's no surprise that a driver who has just finished a 90-minute stint will think he's just begun it. But often time seems to live by other rules, as if affected by tides or phases of the moon, but more likely by the various stages of the race. For most people, it slows down at dawn and dusk. In the dead of night, around the race's halfway point, time seems almost to stop. The green flag and the checkered one seem unfathomably far away. The hours and minutes that are the conventional means of expressing the passage of time, merely an abstraction.
There's that sunrise, absolutely gorgeous here. The opening round of the 2016 IMSA WeatherTech SportsCar Championship. And it is a glorious morning that is upon us. Great to be with you. We want to now take you to some of the highlights that have unfolded after we went off the air. And when we went off the air, the lights and colors in the infield as darkness fell, absolutely spectacular. Of course, the festival and the fireworks. Spectacular stuff, but also some amazing things on the track. And the class of the field in the early going, the number 60 from Mike Shank Racing and Oz Negri and Ricky Taylor got into a fabulous battle. Oz to the lead, then on a restart, Taylor able to get back around and put that car back into the lead position. Now there was good speed from the 02 Chip Ganassi car in the early going, but then problems, Cal.
Yeah, there was. Tony Kanaan had a problem down in turn 1 area to limp the car back to the garage area.
I came in to brake into turn 1 and I had no brakes, and thank God it happened there. It's a big runoff, so I was able to turn around and come back to the pits, but I just had no brakes.
And at the beginning of the 10th hour, again, the number 60 from Mike Shank getting back around the Corvette DP of Ricky Taylor.
Yeah, he did, but it was going to be short-lived. Unfortunately, they had problems. The Honda popped a motor there. Oz Negri sits behind the wheel. Tough day for those guys.
Looks like the motor's gone, so we'll know here in about a few minutes, but something's happened to the bottom of the car, the front of the motor, oil's dumping out of it. It looks like the motor's gone.
You can hear the frustration. The similar Ligier Honda of Extreme Speed Motorsports and Scott Sharp got to the lead, but then had a penalty for blowing by the pit out. Spent some time there, but just before the 12-hour mark was able to get back into the lead, Cal.
Yeah, that Honda really has been the class of the field. We talk about the 60 having pace. Certainly the ESM car is very much in this lead battle right now. And if it becomes a shootout at the end, they should be a factor.
Another car that has been very quick, had a big scary moment in the pits, a little fuel fire. However, they were able to get that out. Dane Cameron able to get back on the road. In GT Le Mans, some phenomenal battling. Best we've seen in this race from one of the classes. Awesome stuff. The number 911 Porsche Tandy around the BMW. And the problem was for the number 100 BMW, they showed good pace, but they had issues.
They did. Down into turn 1, Lucas Luhr behind the wheel. Major issue, damage to the 100 machine.
With the Corvette and the Porsches, and then suddenly I arrive at turn 1 in the brake zone, and it looks like the front right brake disc failed.
And the night may have been a bit cruel to the BMW, but it brought fortune to the Corvette team as the number 4 of Oliver Gavin. Ollie back in front here as the sun rises. And in GT Daytona, Lamborghini had a fabulous run, but then the 2 leaders, Cal.
Unbelievable. Bryce Miller gets attacked by Justin Marks down into turn 1.
Wondering what the possibility for that incident was?
The other car, and I had the brakes, and the thing just turned hard left on me. I don't really know why. I don't know if the air caught it a certain way or something, but it wasn't anything different I've been doing for 4 hours.
And that now has Rene Rast in the Audi out front. Few better in an Audi going along. But of course, you have a look here. That is the Viper, the number 33, having a big moment. Ben Keating going around at that awfully tricky chicane bus stop. And there now is Rene Rast, the Magnus Racing Audi, up front at this point in GT Daytona. So let's take a look at the leaderboard right now. And Cal, there you see it. That battle at the front now, the 2 Corvette DPs, but that 0-1 has been flying thus far.
Yeah, you can never count out the Ganassi boys. The 02 car had those brake issues. They sit there in 7th, but the 0-1, the star car as they're calling it, Andy Prio, Wirtz, Hartley, and Stroll very much in the mix.
And just a great battle unfolding, of course, as we talked about in GT Le Mans. You take a look at how close some of the things are going there. Great run by the Scuderia Corsa Ferrari in the GT Le Mans category. Very impressive what's unfolding there. There you see Rast, the number 44, leading in GT Daytona. And that field, we have a tremendous run that's unfolding for them right now. By the way, folks, 488 laps complete. 1,737 plus miles, 18 cautions thus far in the event, and plenty of time yet to unfold in this one. As you take a look at the last page, 54 cars started this one, and obviously some of the cars here at the back have had issues, and we have a few cars that are out. We'll update you on that as well. Hi everybody, great to have you with us. Greg Creamer along with Calvin Fish. And Cal, at the top of the show, we sort of set the scene with change and uncertainty. Well, now we've got a lot of time into this race. What's your take on the flow of the event so far?
Well, it's really taken on the traditional flow of a Rolex 24-hour race. We've had very fast cars that have fallen by the wayside. The Delta Wing, we said it was the wild card coming in. Boy, what a first 3 hours that put into the mix. And then Andy Merrick got caught out down in turn 1 and damaged that race car. They couldn't take any further action. Then we saw the 60 car, very fast. Oz Negri popped a motor. The Honda was out there. But that number 2, there's a lot of cars on this lead lap, but comes a shootout. The Honda has the pace today.
GT Le Mans, the battle we were hoping for, it's on. Absolutely fantastic. GT Daytona, a lot of anticipation for that. The biggest entry of all the classes. A huge group still on the lead lap.
Yeah, there's about 10 cars still on the lead lap, depending on pit cycle, so it's anyone's game in GTD.
And in the Prototype Challenge class, the 85 Miller JDC car, even with an incident, continues to lead comfortably by a number of laps. We're going to step away for a moment. When we come back, we'll hear from our pit team, give you a couple of updates on some other things, so stay with us. We are back at Daytona International Speedway, now with Daytona Rising, the Motorsports Stadium, and what a venue it is. Let's take a look now at what you're going to be able to watch with us as the day unfolds. Of course, starting at 10:30, we're going to be moving over to Fox Sports 2 for just a little while, but obviously we're going to be bringing it to you all the way to the end, and we finish right back on Fox Sports 1. So stay with us all day long here. And we also want to take a look at the weather, and it is absolutely gorgeous for this time of year. 58 at this time of day, gorgeous. A little heavy in the humidity, the wind almost non-existent, and it's cloudy skies right now, but it sure is pretty out there, and lights are coming out. Now, Cal, at the very top of the show, we talked about the keys to victory, the WeatherTech keys to victory. So it was interesting finding new rhythm. Well, we've certainly seen some of the teams being able to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a different dynamic to the race this year, particularly with the GT3 cars. They now have ABS. They've got a lot more downforce. They can dive really deep into the brake zone. So the other cars, the faster classes, haven't identified that and deal with it.
Dealing with the unknowns, well, we've seen a lot of that unfold tonight with the new cars, new packages.
Yeah, absolutely. We saw with the Ford GTs early problems that they hadn't seen in testing after multiple test days and miles suddenly reared their head in the race, and they had to deal with those.
With 18 cautions, focus seems to be a possible issue.
Yeah, we've seen it more, not so much from the crews right now, because we've still got a long way to go. They're not exactly exhausted yet, but certainly the drivers, a few problems down there on the racetrack, making mistakes.
And of course, luck was the last one, and that is just massive always in one of these races. We're going to step down to pit lane right now and meet the first of our 2 pit reporters for this segment coming up. Jamie Howe, I hope you've just loaded up on coffee. This is going to be a fun one to the finish.
I have had my fair share of coffee so far this morning, Greg, of course. You know, as I came down here, I noticed a lot of the crew members still had their eyes closed, finding anywhere they could to sleep on pit lane. But then as the sun came up, they've started to rub that sleep away from their eyes a little bit. Pit lane now smells more like bacon than it does brake dust. So it seems to start to wake up a little bit. I'm in the Corvette pit right now. I just talked to Tommy Milner, and he said so far the race for that 4 machine has gone to plan. He had a little bit of contact overnight, but the car is showing no signs of damage. So they're just going to keep sticking to their plan. He'll be next behind the wheel. For more, here's Justin Bell.
Well, as you can see behind me,
the sun was glowing orange when we started this show barely a few minutes ago, and now already it is well and truly up. And above me, as I walk into pit lane, you can see the Rolex clock up there, which is ticking away, albeit too slowly for some people. So if we head over here into pit lane, you can see there's, Jamie just talked about everyone is waking up, but also business goes on. This reminds me of like a bee's nest. It's a little mini city. Everyone goes about their business, feeding the machine, and the sharp point of that is on track. You mentioned the ABS, Cal. Well, we just saw Park Place Motorsport come in, and they changed their front brake pads. That was estimated around between the 12 and 14 hour mark. The ABS actually really does chunk up the pads at a far higher rate than the GTLM cars, which don't have ABS. It also allows for that amazing braking that we're seeing from the GTD cars, actually later in some circumstances than the higher downforce GTLM cars. Causes this sort of equality, albeit somewhat unrealistic equality out on track between the GTLM and GTD cars. But you'll see a lot of these cars in GTD now starting to change their front pads. And if you're sitting at home, when you see the front wheels come off, if there's an awful lot of dust come out of the front wheels, when they change them, that's the moment for them to probably look at the pads. But it's really lovely down here. I mean, our gentlemen up in the booth are probably still sipping their Americanos, while Jamie and I are down here on pit lane. There's a lot of racing to go, guys, but the energy down here, well, I think everyone's got the game to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. From coffee to tea, Jamie to Justin, obviously. This is a fabulous battle going on right now for second overall. That is Ryan Hunter-Reay in the number 90 VisitFlorida.com Corvette DP, and he is being hounded by Christian Fittipaldi. And, of course, Christian and that team winning the last two series championships, and they are sitting in third right now. And they've got a very special driver on board here looking for some history, and they're in a good position for that, aren't they? Now let's take a look at GT Daytona, and few better, as I said, in the Audi, Cal, than Rene Rast. He can really get the job done in here, and of course he actually won the class here in 2012 in another Audi at that time. This, the newer of the GT3 formatted Audis, having a really strong run. However, hounding him and closing in just a little bit, just a few seconds back, the car that sits second right now, a guy named Patrick Long for Black Swan Racing. So Rene and that team obviously paying very close attention to what's unfolding behind him. And there you see the 48 from Paul Miller Racing, that Lamborghini that got taken out. That car back on track, and it is clearly one of the fastest cars in this field.
Yeah, such a shame, because it's shown tremendous pace throughout the course of this race. Really fast lap times. The Lamborghini's made a brilliant debut, but for two of the lead cars to take each other out, we heard from Justin Marks there in the open of today's show, just saying he didn't know what happened there. Hit the brake pedal, it suddenly turned on him and took the 48 machine out. So they just got a battle on. It's a long championship season. Initially, you come into this race, Greg, you want to win that Rolex, but if you have problems, you then have to turn your attention to the big picture. That is a championship, scoring as many points as you can on a bad day.
No question about it. So, I mean, that's part of just surviving one of these as we watch the number 62, Risi Competizione. GT Le Mans, Ferrari ducked to the inside and then just kind of parks. I mean, that is what we're seeing in terms of the speed in a straight line and into the brake zones that you guys were talking about for GT Daytona. And it's really making things interesting and a bit difficult for the GT Le Mans car, currently led by Oliver Gavin in the number 4 Corvette.
Yeah, he's got about a 6-second lead right now over Nick Tandy, Jan Magnussen, the sister Corvette. The number 3 car sits 3 seconds back of Tandy. So we talked at the beginning of the show, the new cars coming in from BMW, Ferrari, and from Ford, but really the teams they have to beat are the proven ones, from Corvette that won this race last year, from Porsche that won the championship last year. Right now, that's the way it's shaken out, with 2 Corvettes, 2 Porsches in the top 4.
Yeah, the new cars and that new technology, and we've seen that the turbos have certainly shown some pace. The best of those right now, the number 25 Bruno Spengler sitting in 5th right now. But there is a look at the number 911 of Nick Tandy, and we've already talked almost ad nauseum about the remarkable year he had last year. And I'll tell you what, I went down at the end of our stint last night and talked my way onto one of the flag stations over in the bus stop, and watching the top cars in GT Le Mans go through there is absolutely breathtaking.
I mean, the cars are so sweet. They have such a great downforce this year with the added aero, the big Venturis coming out the back. Porsche is one of the cars that really can't take advantage of the rails to the full extent because of the layout of their engine. They can't really get the full Venturi underneath the shape of the bottom of their engine. What you see with the Ford, I think that dramatic look with that rear diffuser really creates great downforce. Corvette has been restarted a little bit. You notice it more with the Corvette with the side sills and their rear diffuser a little bit more splitted to balance the car out. So these cars are going to be quick. It doesn't show up so much here, and I think that's what we're seeing. The GTD cars kind of on par with the GTLM cars in certain corners, but when we get to another track with this high downforce corners, I think these GTLM cars will really come into their own.
Yeah, it should be fun to watch when we get to Sebring, no question about that, as we have a look now at Jan Magnussen sitting third in GT Le Mans. By the way, our GT Le Mans contingent, Oliver Gavin running 8th overall right now, but up front it is Ricky Taylor leading overall. Here are your 4 class leaders. We'll be right back. It is an all Chevrolet Corvette DP top 3 overall right now. The number 10 Konica Minolta entry from Wayne Taylor Racing of Ricky Taylor. The number 5 of Christian Fittipaldi in the Mustang Sampling Action Express Corvette DP. Second, third, the number 90 Visit Florida Racing entry of Ryan Hunter-Reay. But Scott Sharp, even though he's dropped off a bit, Cal, while we were in break, he was right there. He had to check up and he got into some traffic going into the bus stop. But he and then Andy Prio not that far back either. But the top 3 right now, 3 seconds covering the top 4, and then just a few more seconds back to Prio. This is great stuff at over 16.5 hours in.
Yeah, that really is a fascinating battle right now, and Scott Sharp seems to have the pace right now in the 2 car in particular with all of their drivers, but he showed great patience, showed his experience there. There's a big jam up into the bus stop chicane right this area. He lost 2 or 3 seconds, but that is not a big deal to him. He's just got to really focus on the big picture. Long way to go. But as we said at the top of the show, Greg, there's a lot of unknowns here with the new combinations. The number 2 car runs that new 3.5 liter motor in that Patrón machine, but they still have to beat the tried and proven GMs that run 1-2 right now, run 1-2-3, and obviously Ganassi looking for their second consecutive Rolex 24-hour victory, this time with the 01, but they're in the top 5, so very much in the mix.
Here's a moment here by the Risi Ferrari.
They'd been in the garage just a short while ago, very much in the lead battle until that moment about an hour ago.
I believe they did a recent brake change, and maybe they're having a little bit of an issue there. Good spot to do it, as we heard from Tony Kanaan in the highlights. If you're going to have a brake issue, turn 1's the place because of the massive runoff. Real quick, getting back to what you were talking about with the Extreme Speed Motorsports, that Honda power plant, in the back of your mind after what happened to the Mike Shank car, very similar, basically identical type of package, that worry you at all?
Well, of course. I mean, you'd have to say it's the identical motor. Will we have a similar problem? I'm sure that they got the 60 car back to the garage, done a thorough investigation as to what went wrong, and maybe they can relate that information. But, you know, if there's a component problem, then there's nothing you can do about changing it in the middle of the race. Otherwise, all the drivers can do and try and be a little bit easier on the motor. I'm sure the feedback will have gone back to the ESM group and said, listen, we had this problem with the 60 machine. Maybe look out for this.
And as you can see, certainly that pace you were talking about, Cal, there after backing off, being smart, giving that up, he's already eaten a good 2 seconds of that 3 right back again, and is closing in on the back of the number 90. And of course, he's got some pretty good experience, obviously. Scott Sharp in lots of different machinery and an overall winner here in the past. So some good stuff that we're watching here right now. That is the battle for third, and Sharp is definitely closing.
Yeah, he really is. Got a good run through the bus stop chicane there. I think that's where the downforce, that P2 configuration, really plays its part in the higher speed corners coming off the bus stop. The downforce really comes into play. He's got a good run on Ryan Hunter-Reay. And we talk about some of these superstars. Ryan Hunter-Reay, former Indy 500 champ, former IndyCar champion. He just loves to be out here in this race, knocking the rust off after the winter break and getting ready for his season that starts in March.
Absolutely, and of course, multi-class racing, GT Daytona, Rene Rast in that Magnus Audi. That is a good-looking car, by the way. And Justin, you've got some information for us.
Yeah, you know, Magnus Racing always like to take things very seriously, especially in the pit lane. You can see Andy Lally is up there on the pit lane ready to go, but they like to make sure their drivers don't get confused by using little Lego figures. There is Rene Rast ready to jump out, and there is Andy Lally ready to jump in. And they really like to spell it out for the drivers in case, you know, they both try at the same time, that goes wrong, or they both leave at the same time, that goes wrong. So, you know, very much Mr. Potter likes to make sure he gives his team strict instructions. Maybe they even give a little hug in the middle. But actually, in all seriousness, you can see the team take their racing extremely seriously in the middle of having a bit of fun. It also keeps the morale up. And right now, at this time in the morning, you need to have all the energy. Team is on deck. They're coming in. This is a solid run for Magnus. Right, Jamie?
That's right. Magnus is just at the pit box right in front of us, so I got to watch all that firsthand. Pretty comical stuff, Justin. But, Will, I want to turn it over to you guys and to BMW. The 97 is doing very well right now. He had the broken axle with the 96. What are your thoughts on how the race has unfolded?
You know, we're cautiously optimistic at this point. Having brand new cars, in fact, the first two M6 GT3 cars in the world, I think, were delivered to us. And they really are brand new cars for us. We've tested them and we've made a lot of changes in development with the help of BMW. But you know, again, it's like putting a new football team together 2 weeks and having your first game be the Super Bowl. You know, this is tough stuff. So, you know, we're really happy to make it through the night. We had problems with the one car, but the other car is still trucking. And we're just trying to take it easy and get to the end of this. And the drivers are liking the car. It doesn't have quite the straightaway speed that we wished we had here. And I think we might be actually the slowest in a straight line. But again, if we can just be consistent and the drivers just do their jobs, we stay out of trouble. Hopefully we can be there at the end. But again, this is IMSA GTD and anything can happen, and it usually does, probably in the last hour.
Now, you mentioned that testing that you did. You guys came here before the Roar. You also went to Sebring. How much did that testing help you in terms of reliability, you think?
You know, again, the best part of this car, at least the 97 car, has been it's a new car and it's been almost perfectly reliable this whole time. And in testing, some little things popped up that BMW quickly addressed and fixed, but we really didn't have any major issues in the tests that we did. And the tests were more really to shake down the car about reliability rather than speed. And we've worked on speed in the practice days just before this race. So again, everything kind of came together for this new car, and we're really happy, and I'm looking forward to the rest of the year running the M6 GT3.
We're expecting the 97 in pit lane in just a minute. We're going to stay down here. Justin?
Yeah, as the 44 makes its way onto pit lane. Jamie, we get to see it from the best seat in the house, don't we? When you literally see the anticipation, the tension in the pit crew, especially at this time of the morning. They've roused themselves from their omelette station out the back as the Audi hits his marks exactly. Rene Rast, such a veteran now behind the wheel of sports cars, and of course no mistakes from the minute it hits the pit lane. This team also, like all these top sports car teams, know how to count the guys in, know how to procedure. Everybody right now, it's not about doing things any better than they've done the rest of the race. It's about doing no mistakes or making no mistakes. So Andy Lally, the flying vegan, is getting behind the wheel. You can see his driver assist is attaching him. I'm actually vegan now, just in case you know, anyone wants to give me a ride in an Audi. They're closing the door. This car, you can see the streaks on the front there from all the oil. The track is certainly taking its toll cosmetically, but this car looks perfectly in the physical conditions it heads out. Andy behind the wheel. It'll be interesting to see what times he does. This is the best time of the morning. The air is cool, the track is dry, and the cars are going fast.
We talked about change. One of the biggest changes is that Magnus Racing so long campaign and Porsche has made the switch in the off-season to the Audi brand. I know they considered many of the new manufacturers and ultimately did a deal, and right now it's showcasing that was a pretty wise choice. I mean, so many of these GT3 cars, we spoke to Will Turner there about their unproven in terms of race distance. Well, the Audi went out the middle of last year and won the 24 hours of the Nürburgring. It sat on the podium at Spa, won a 24-hour race at Dubai just a few weeks ago. So it's somewhat proven in terms of the reliability game, at least.
Yeah, certainly one of the more sorted new GT3 cars. Mirko Bortolotti having a problem in that Paul Miller Racing number 48 Lamborghini, and we're getting a report that they may be going straight into the garage area. Again, they did a remarkable job rebuilding that car after that big hit, but you never know, things get deep into a car sometimes when you have a hit like that.
Yeah, and he's up on the high side right now, so you've got to be careful as he now tucks it back down onto the apron. When you run through the bus stop chicane, that's good that you can do that, but then you've got the issue of getting back down at the low side for the pit entrance. And, you know, this is a Lamborghini factory guy, really nice young man, speaks 4 different languages, I understand, and just a pleasure to have in our paddock for the first time. He knows this platform very well, so I think bringing him to the table, Paul Miller made a wise choice along with the support from Lamborghini.
And we're going to take a look actually at what's unfolding here at the front of the class. There is the number 98 right now, and that is Matthias Lauda leading in the Aston Martin Racing entry. And then you can see the leader in Prototype Challenge, and there is the number 540, and that is, how great is it to have Black Swan back in it? Tim Pappas, of course, a great team that he's had for a long time, but Pat Long behind the wheel right now.
Yeah, I think he likes the colors too. I mean, Pat likes the green on his helmet. He's got it on the car as well. Strong driver lineup there with Nicky Katzberg, and we talk about the makeup of the grading in the GTD category. You have to have 2 silver drivers. Well, Andy Pilgrim is not through his talent, it's just simply by his age, and he's one of the more mature, let's put it that way, drivers in the field this year. He is a silver graded driver, so what an asset to have Andy Pilgrim as your 4th driver on that lineup.
No question, and you know, obviously just great opportunity for him to come back here where he's had some success at Daytona back in the early days, and great to have him back with an opportunity here, and that car showing very well. But Lauda right now in that, essentially that's a factory Aston Martin program in a sense, running in GT Daytona almost. It's pretty impressive.
It really is. The team know each other very well. Matthias and Paul Dalla and Pedro Lamy run together on a full-time basis in the World Endurance Championship, admittedly in more like a GTLM style Aston Martin. But the group is good. They realized coming here that they didn't want to try and compete with some of the new breed in GTLM, so they took a stab here at the GTD class, and it's working out well.
Boy, Matthias has no issue throwing that car around a little bit. Really fun to watch him sling that Aston Martin around. We're going to take a quick break. We will be back as we are closing in on 17 hours complete. You know, as a fan, few things better than having that morning coffee when you crawl out of the tent with the campfire going and knowing you've still got the better part of 7 hours of world-class sports car racing to enjoy. We're at the Rolex 24 at Daytona, opening round of IMSA's WeatherTech SportsCar Championship. That infield is absolutely packed, and I think they're in for a great finish to this one. Everything we're seeing indicates in all but one of the classes, we are going to have some phenomenal racing right to the end. And by the way, Scott Sharp did get around Ryan Hunter-Reay. He's moved that number 2 car up into the 3rd spot right now, and Christian Fittipaldi just a tick ahead of him. But now, about 4 seconds clear of that group, Ricky Taylor is absolutely booking right now.
He really is. And I tell you what, when you see the lead cars around each other, where this 10 car is so strong, we saw it last night with Max Angelelli when he was in a battle with Dane Cameron. It is so strong on the brake zone down into turn 1. A lot of that is not just the braking ability. You're kind of a little bit off camber there as you transition off the banking and just having the platform of the car right. So that whole group has really done a great job in engineering this car and giving it the performance in one of the key areas to the racetracks we mentioned in the track description yesterday.
A lot of experience here, obviously, and a lot of talent behind the wheel of this one when you add in, as you said, Max Angelelli, and a late add, Rubens Barrichello.
He was awesome.
Chops.
He was awesome last night, right on the mix and on the pace, and did a great job. Exactly what Wayne Taylor wanted, expected, and Rubens delivered.
He kind of bailed on a vacation, I think, and got the call and said, this is a race I have always wanted to do, and got permission and showed up and decided to run it.
Well, I hate to say it's typical Wayne, but I think he'd spoken to Rubens and couldn't make a decision, and I think Rubens basically was in the airport and said, you need to make your mind up what you're doing, and Wayne said, we need you, so they changed their travel plans and turned him around.
And he's just working it right now. But again, Christian Fittipaldi sits in that second spot. He was there within about 2 seconds, but through some traffic, and I think that's what you're talking about, Cal. This car on the brakes, he could get deep in there, and it really gives him the opportunity to suddenly blossom that margin out by a second or two working traffic. Here comes Fittipaldi, and then you can see Sharp. He's got one of the GTD cars in between him. But right now, let's get down. It is the Turner BMW in the pits.
And Maxime Martin hit the marks beautifully when he brought the car into pit lane. Switching over driving duties right now. Jesse Crone getting behind the wheel of the car. This Turner team already hard at work. 4 new Continental tires are on. Fuel still going in. They're also doing a new clean windscreen with the tear off. Looking up at the screen, though, there's a number 1 marked on that tear off that's left. That means that's the last one. So every pit stop from here on out, they're going to have to clean it off the old-fashioned way with some spray. Door is shut, and Jesse is out.
Good stop. And Cal, we heard the interview that Jamie did with Will Turner talking about the new car, the new program. There are few teams you'd rather have debut a brand new platform than Turner. I think this is their 331st professional race, all with BMWs. They're specialists.
They are very much a great team. They won the championship, of course, back in 2014 with Dane Cameron. Marcus Paltalo is part of the driving squad. Shared all 4 of those victories. Unfortunately, had to miss a couple of rounds, so he didn't share the championship with Dane, but they won a race last year at Lime Rock. With Michael Marcel and Dane when he did a one-off. So they've shown pace over the last couple of years, and now they've got these new cars, and it's a great group, and they've really, the team has gone from strength to strength. I mean, they've run throughout a variety of different championships over the years. Now they're in the big leagues and performing at the top level as well.
Having a look here at our car, 4th overall and 4th in prototype, Ryan Hunter-Reay in the Visit Florida Racing Corvette DP. After Sharp got around him, Ryan's dropped off just a little bit to the tune of about 3.5 seconds. And there's that bit of traffic coming up on the back of the SMP GT Le Mans Ferrari. And you can see those GT Le Mans cars, they get through that bus stop pretty quickly. And Ryan really had to check up for a minute.
Yeah, he thought about going down the inside, and you're just trying to read. You're not quite sure what car it is, which driver is now behind the wheel, and that's the ebb and flow of this race. What a car does, maybe even 5 minutes ago when you saw that car on the racetrack, may do something completely different because there's been a driver change. And that's what endurance racing is all about, identifying the language of the car, saying, no, he's turning in at a different point, he's taking the brakes into a different point, and that's why you're always got to be on your toes.
Reading that high-speed chessboard that we've talked about. This is the car that sits 4th right now, and that is Andy Prio, as the number 5 of Christian Fittipaldi is ducked into the pit. So this Ford EcoBoost Riley from Ford Chip Ganassi Racing now up into 4th. And you know, we had that star car we've been calling it in the 02, but boy, that lineup in 01. I think that qualifies.
It really does. Andy Prio is going to be part of the Ford driving squad on the Ford GT over in the World Endurance Championship that was just announced a few weeks ago. He's really pumped. And then he gave Mike Hull a call and said, hey, I'd love to be at Daytona. I know there's not a seat for me in the 2 GT cars, and they hooked him up here. So he doesn't have a lot of prototype experience, but that didn't take him long to get in the rhythm of this car. 3-time World Touring Car champion, so much success with BMWs over the year, left the BMW camp at the end of last season to switch to Ford. And there's a race over in Europe, the Race of Champions at the stadium, and Andy and Jason Plato won for Team Great Britain, and Andy beat everyone. He beat Vettel, he beat Jenson Button, David Coulthard. I mean, all of the rock stars of the motor racing world, Andy beat them head to head. So the guy is very much on top of his game right now.
No question about it. And I think that was a great move. It may not be in the Ford GT with that specific crew, but this gets him a little time before starting the season in the Chip Ganassi Racing organization.
And at the test 3 weeks ago, he was here to test this car, and Mike O'Gara from the Ganassi team said, hop aboard the GT, get a few laps in this car. I know you're going to be campaigning all season. He said that was great for his head, just to know what the car felt like rather than waiting till February to test the car for the first time.
And our overall leader down into the pits.
Yeah, Ricky jumping out, Jordan ready to get in. Of course, these two, if anyone's going to have a symbiotic relationship with these two brothers in terms of getting in and out of the car is literally smeared with the battle scars of being on track here at Daytona at those high speeds. But it looks like a pretty synchronized stop at the moment. The driver assist making sure that Jordan is in, because I'm sure he's going to do a few hours right now. Full tire change. Jordan's off, and oh my God, I got a mouthful of that, Jamie. Was it like your end? Cleaner, I hope.
It's pretty clean right now. It's the 2 from Extreme Speed Motorsports in. Scott Sharp has gotten out of the car. Pippo Durrani now getting strapped in. Fuel still going in. to this machine as they're getting the belts done. Driver change taking a little bit longer than normal service. Nonetheless, Pipo's out.
Well, this guy was absolutely dynamite in the opening hour of this race.
Wow.
So I think now we'll see ultimately what this car can do. I mean, the Patrón machine has been on it with all of the drivers behind the wheel, but certainly they had a lot of faith in putting Pipo on his debut in the car in the wet qualifying in the opening hours of this race, and he put on a show.
Absolutely, and Justin talking about that Wayne Taylor Racing stop, and tell you, all these crews operate at a high level, but that team always seems to just have something special. And up front, though, it is Ryan Hunter-Reay leading overall now, and he's expected to pit soon.
Each new car has its own personality and handling characteristics, and Michelin works extremely close with each manufacturer to recognize those nuances and optimize the performance of each car. Michelin started working with Ford Performance and Chip Ganassi Racing on tire simulations and developments for the new Ford GTs over a year ago, and they've been testing on track for several months. But one of the things they found was actually a bit of a surprise. Michelin initially expected the Ford GT characteristics and tire needs to be similar to the mid-engine Ferrari team. And sure enough, the Ford GT works well with that same family of Michelin front tire that the Ferrari, Corvette, and BMW all use. But as testing and development progressed, Ford and the CGR team preferred the same Michelin rear tire solutions that Corvette and BMW use rather than the Ferrari rear tire options. So having all of the Michelin tire options available to test has already helped the Ford GT get up to speed here at the Rolex 24.
Boy, they do dedicate, don't they? Here's the number 66 Ford GT down into pit lane. They've had speed, Cal. They just have had that, as you might expect, with a brand new program. Once you get it racing on the track, the niggling little problems that you're going to have and have to deal with.
Yeah, one of the keys to the race was dealing with the unknown, and they got stuff happen in the early hours of this race they hadn't seen in testing. Justin?
Yeah, I mean, the car comes in. I mean, it looks so glorious. Everyone from the teams either side is watching this car as they do the driver change. Joey Hand just got in, and Muller got out. I was talking with him earlier in the week, and Muller, he was just saying what an amazing car it is to drive. I mean, it's so different for him from what he's been in the last few years, but he said it's incredibly drivable. You can feel the downforce as the 66 goes back out. I mean, right now, this is a living, dynamic 24-hour test. All the data is going to be analyzed every second of every lap and every bit of performance, and that's going to help them be way better for their next race. But a very strong and very public display for their inaugural race, Jamie.
A couple GTD cars hitting pit road now, one of them being the class leader, the number 540 at the hands of Patrick Long. He's getting out of the car, so they are going to do a driver change here. It looked like maybe Tim Pappas was getting behind the wheel. I didn't see the name on the fire suit, so I'll have to double check on that. But this crew is going to work. I was talking to Patrick earlier in the weekend, and he said, you know, we think that the key to this is going to be the same as it has been every other year. You have to survive the first 23 hours in order to be in the last hour, and that's just what this team is doing right now. They are surviving, and they're staying out there. I did just see one of the center wheel locks, though, just rolled down pit lane, so hopefully one of the crew members was able to grab the spare off of his suit. They're just taking a couple extra minutes here, cleaning out the venting. Fuel was complete. They're just waiting on it to fire.
You can see the crew really doing a thorough analysis of the brakes, and there's no point in pushing things at this stage. If there's any fix that needs to be done, you really use this last 6-7 hours, Greg, to really make sure that the car's going to be in its best shape for that shootout at the end. Maybe doing some subtle setup changes to the car, tire presses, any subtle sway bar adjustments. Make sure the brakes are going to be there. If you need to really use them, don't try and sort of like eliminate one brake change, but suddenly the guy doesn't have it and he has to lose a second or two a lap in the last hour of this race, and he can't go for the win. So I think that's what they're analyzing right now. And of course, in the GT category, the two silver graded drivers we discussed earlier have to do 5 hours each, so they got to cycle those guys through.
And I think they were very patient in the early part of this race, getting those guys some of the time, not worrying so much about where they were running, just staying in touch so that they would be in a position like this as we get into daylight once again. Up front, we've got a fabulous battle at this stage of the race for the overall race lead. Jordan Taylor on board the number 10 Konica Minolta entry from Wayne Taylor Racing, but Christian Fittipaldi in that Mustang Sampling Action Express number 5 Corvette DP has been right there a couple of times, has looked to the inside, but the problem I think he's facing is what you addressed just a little bit ago. Every time he gets a run at him, they get into a brake zone, and that's where that car just seems to plant and let right now Jordan Taylor maintain that lead.
Yeah, and there's a big question mark over Jordan Taylor's health coming in here. He's had a bit of a viral issue over the course of the last 2 or 3 weeks. That's why they brought Rubens in as a backup and alleviate some of the hours that Jordan would have to do. But he felt good after the first thing. Chris Neville spoke to him. He said, no, I feel fine. So all systems go. One problem that he has, though, these guys are so highly tuned in terms of doing their training. He wasn't able to work out in the last couple of 3 weeks, and that was what was more affecting them than anything in terms of that question mark in your head, Greg.
Absolutely. They've got enhanced physio down in pit lane. They've got everything they need to keep him in good shape. And Justin, I understand you are with Mr. Wayne himself.
I am. So we've just been talking about the way that your boys have not necessarily had the lead up to this race, certainly for Jordan that he'd normally have. But they're doing so well out there. But it's a lot of pressure in the car, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, there really is, and it's a very, very competitive race. You know, during the middle of the night when the P2s were still in here, I was thinking, you know, we were always going to be racing for 4th, 5th, and 6th. And now, obviously, they've had their bad turn. As you know, Rick Jordan wasn't feeling very well at the beginning, but he did a stint and a half. He's fine. He's back in the car. A lot of pressure. Don't know why, but with the slowest bloody Corvette car in a straight line, and it's becoming annoying. I don't know why that is. But other than that, they're leading, or they're running up front all the time.
And the thing with you, Wayne, is that you always manage, well, invariably to pull it out of the hat, but you're like the guy that says, all this gold in my pocket is too heavy. You know what I mean?
This gold is lead holding me on the timing stand. I don't have the gold.
Oh.
But it's just, you know, I mean, obviously Chevy and I mean, this is a great car, and you know what Konica Minolta give us to allow us to do this job has just been superb. And both my boys and my other boy Max, I mean, they're just doing what they love doing.
So obviously they're doing their job on track, and I bet you are double-checking driver time this year, correct?
Well, you know, I can only count to 10. And so I've got engineers to do that job, but we are monitoring it. And you know, we've had Rubens Barrichello come on board. He was obviously a great partner to the team. But the poor guy, you know, he only drove the car for the first time in the rain the other day. So he did a great job in the night. Now we're going to probably rotate Jordan, Max, and maybe Ricky finishes and see how it goes.
Perfect. Well, you know, Wayne is the proud dad of all these drivers up on the pit box, Jamie.
And it was Andy Pilgrim that got behind the wheel of the 540, not team boss Tim Pappas. But Patrick, you just did a double in the car, so you were in for the sunrise stint. What condition is the 540 in at the moment?
It's pretty solid at the moment. It was a wild evening. I'm sure everybody's telling that same story, but we like our chances. The car's in good shape. Andy Pilgrim's out there right now for a couple of stints, and then Nick and I will bring it to the finish. But so far, it's been a battle of Porsches since the Lamborghinis had their out there exchange, and there's that Audi with Magnus in there as well. So I think there's about a 5-horse race. As always, we got to be there in the last couple hours. Long way to go.
We weren't on air for the overnight hours. What was it you guys dealt with specifically?
Typical Daytona, you know, you go down into turn 1 and everybody's racing hard. It's brought a little bit of a different attitude to the GTD drivers because we have ABS. So when it's cold, the tires are cold, we can really give a hard time to an LMPC car and even a GTLM car. But for the most part, there was a lot of give and take in the lines that were forming. A lot of cars. The series is healthy at the moment, so you just have to bide your time. It's tempting to not want to get in there and rub doors with people, but at this point, our car is really clean, and we just want to keep that going.
One of the stories all week long was who has what left in the tank, and now that the race is well underway, how surprised are you with kind of where the competition stacks up in this class?
Yeah, I didn't hear your complete question, but certainly there's been a lot of sand falling out of certain cars, and today, you know, learn who's got a couple seconds in their pocket, and Jeff Carter and IMSA have said that they're going to penalize cars that don't show their complete potential in practice. And so if there was ever a chance to exercise that threat, it might be this weekend. But I try to stay out of the politics. It takes energy away from what I'm doing in my car, but ultimately it's racing, and part of racing is playing the game. So I think the guys at IMSA are doing a great job. They have the spirit of the rules and entertainment in the right condition, but they've been threatening. Let's see what happens.
When can we expect to see you back in the car?
I'll be back in pretty quick here. Nick and I are sort of front-loaded our silver drivers, and so we'll have a bit of heavy lifting to do here at the end.
All right, get some rest. Thank you.
Pretty impressive to have Pat Long on that team with that immense amount of experience. The U.S.'s only Porsche factory driver, and his experience in long-distance races. You know that he's working with that team and helping with the strategy as well. What a wealth of experience.
Yes, and his experience as a politician is pretty strong as well. Don't want to get into politics, but if they did want to, put that 5-minute penalty rule in, which is in the rule book, what they're saying is if you've really not shown your true potential during testing, during practice, and suddenly you go out in the race, you run a couple of seconds later, there's a rule that states we can park the car for 5 minutes in the last 30 minutes of this race. It hasn't ever been used yet. Yeah. And Pat's just saying if they should want to use that, might not be a bad day to do it.
I think the way he put it was the definitive. I'm not saying, I'm just saying. That was absolutely right. You see the number 3 Corvette there. That car had been leading. Antonio Garcia was leading. They had to come in and do a drive-through down pit lane. They apparently on their pit stop exceeded the speed limit by some 11 miles an hour. You'd think maybe he just ran in a little hot.
Yeah, you'd have to think that's on the way in where you just didn't slow it down enough. They've got the pit lane speed limiter, but you still have to brake and get it down below that speed for that to really tackle the electronics of the race car.
Yeah, absolutely. Now we're going to head down to pit lane. It's Justin is with Nick Tandy.
Hey, Nick, obviously, you just get out of the car, you're tired, it's that time of the morning, you've been working while the rest of us have been sort of sleeping, but the conditions were great for your Porsche 912. You've been pushing hard. Is it just another race for you, or is Daytona a little special at this point because you want to win that one?
This is the big one of our season. It scores the same points as all the other races, but it's the 24 of Daytona. And I've tasted the success before, and it was pretty sweet. We're running well, yes, but there's also a lot of other good cars in GTLM, and
just pushing. Everyone's pushing so hard in this class. It's like if one of you back off a quarter of a second a lap, that the guy's right on your backside, and that, I mean, that must make the motivation of every lap. Is it easier to be flat out every lap than having to run at a pace?
Yes, it's easier just to kind of know what you're doing. It's one of those races where you've got to take care of your stuff, but at the same time you can't afford to drop a lap or make a mistake. Anything like a speeding penalty like we saw from the 3, it drops you down. It took them a long time to recover from the spin they had earlier, so we know that come later on in the race, any team that makes a mistake or anything that happens, they'll probably drop them out of play.
Yeah. Well, he gives it 100% every second, so he needs to go and give 100% to go to bed. All right.
He's earned it. And while that interview is going on, Cal, we've been watching a phenomenal battle between 2 different classes. You take a look, we saw the number 3 Corvette as the number 68 Scuderia Corsa GT Le Mans Ferrari of Alexandre Prima right in the mix. Augusto Farfus in the 25 BMW that we're riding on board with, and they were working their way through a great battle between the 98 GTD Aston Martin of Paul Dell'Anna and the 97 Turner car Jesse Krohn. That's the magic here, and again, with all of the changes made to those GTD cars, sometimes it looks like it's just a scrum between the same class.
Well, there's not much between them. There's less than 2 seconds in terms of the outright fastest lap between the 2 classes, so they're very evenly matched, and there's not a lot of difference between, for example, the Ferrari GTLM and the GTD car, and particularly the new M6. I mean, they've really got a very identical backbone to that race car, engines and everything else, so it's really down to tires and slightly different aero and obviously the boost control on the motors.
And at this point, the number 3 of Garcia has been able to clear the battle just a little bit, has settled in to that 4th position right now. But this battle for 5th is fantastic. Taylor leads overall, Goikhberg in prototype challenge, and Lally still leading in Daytona. phenomenal battle for third in GT Daytona on the screens right now here at the Rolex 24 at Daytona. Paul Dalla in that number 98 Aston Martin, hanging on in front of the attack from the very quick Finn Jesse Krohn in the Turner BMW. And watch this. This battle has been pretty fierce, Cal.
It has, and here we're looking at that battle coming down into turn one. And then you see that car up in front of him, and Paul Dalla tucks it to the inside, slows it down for the 30 car that really wasn't carrying speed through the apex area. Got away with that moment, but this is really just an indication of how far Paul Dalla has come as a driver. I mean, he's a gentleman driver, but he doesn't work for it as a living, but he works at it. Do you know what I mean? A very successful businessman from Canada, has won a lot of championships over the year, a lot of success in the World Endurance Championship last year with Aston Martin. Had the disaster at Le Mans, of course, which really cost him in terms of winning that championship and the race. But he's now taken it to a car of equal ability with a really young hot shoe behind the wheel and holding his own right now.
Yeah, no question about it. I mean, he laid a nice pass on Andy Pilgrim, too, so gives you an idea what he's dealing with. That car in front, by the way, is the Frickadelli Racing number 30 Porsche in the GT Daytona class, down a lap. It's a team that specializes in racing at the Nürburgring. It's the VLN series, and it's the most successful team that's ever run there. And driving the car right now is Sabine Schmitz, and she is a gun when it comes to racing at the Nürburgring. But obviously, this team, and certainly Sabine, not a lot of experience here at Daytona. I think they're putting up a pretty good battle considering it's their first entry in 4A.
No, they're doing a great job, and that's what's exciting about this race. We talk about the different drivers that we don't see on a regular basis, as you see Christian Fittipaldi pit from the second spot in the race. We also see a lot of teams who come over and do maybe a one-off or maybe try and tag along North American Endurance Championship, which is the 6 main endurance races on our season.
Absolutely, and the number 5 is in from the second spot. And this one looks as you would expect, Cal. It looks to be a relatively routine stop at this stage.
And this is a team, for 2 years they've won the championship consecutively, but most impressively, they have completed every lap bar one. And the one lap they didn't complete was at Coda last year when Joao Barbosa got a penalty for retaliation in traffic. So they pretty much completed every lap.
Yeah, exactly. A very, very good point indeed. Let's head down to pit lane. I think Jamie Howe has a story on a car that is certainly a heartfelt favorite for a lot of people, number 50.
That's right. I'll start off with that. So, Calvin, you were mentioning when we did the last round of pit stops, all of the teams taking a couple of extra seconds just to make sure that there was no debris getting in the way of anything. This actually came out of the wheel well of that number 50 machine. It was stuck on the inside. I mean, look how, compared to my microphone, a big ball of rubber, so it can cause all kinds of issues. These are the kinds of things that are coming out of the cars at this stage of the race. I do want to go back to the number 30 machine that you were talking about, though, the Frickadelli Racing Porsche. Some of the best nicknames I've heard in racing. They call that car the Flying Meatball. Frickadelli is in the processed meat business, so it's a flying meatball when it's at the Nürburgring. And Sabine Schmitz, she's called the Queen of the Ring. So some good nicknames.
I like that, Queen of the Ring.
Yeah, I think she's the girlfriend of Klaus Abelin, who's kind of the team proprietor. He is the Flying Butcher, as they call him, and plays music in the Eifel region. And what a team he's put together. He's got some really fast driving talent on that team.
He does indeed, and they're showing quite well. And of course, that number 50 car, by the way, the Highway to Help entry in the over 50 racing program. And of course, Dorsey Schrader among the drivers that run there. So we always keep an extra eye out for that. But that VLN specialist car from Frickadelli Racing, pretty good pace.
It really does. And I just love watching the dynamic. You see certain scenarios playing out. There's Andy Pilgrim behind the wheel of the 540 machine right there, the third car in our screenshot right now. He just backed completely out of that. You could see going into the kink, it's one of the trouble areas of the racetrack. You don't want to go 2 abreast. You certainly don't want to go 3. And that's what you need. You need safe hands if you're going to get this thing to the finish.
Well, experience. Now take a look at this. This is our number 90 of Ryan Dial. Bit of a moment into the bus stop, Cal.
Oh, yeah, he carries a lot of speed there. Can't get it slowed down to get tight to that left-hand apex, and he got lucky. Sometimes during the course of the race, if everyone's running over that curb, that hole on the inside of the curb is a lot bigger than that, and that can really dig in the splitter and rip the nose off of the race car.
Yeah, it turns from an aerodynamic splitter into a great shovel sometimes, and obviously that just loads up. At best, it loads up the grill with dirt, but as you said, the nose could pop off. Not good stuff, but The reason he's trying to carry this pace a little bit is Andy Prio is chasing hard in that Ford EcoBoost Riley, the 01.
Yeah, there you see the gap between 3rd and 4th, and a big shake-up on the 90 squad, the Visit Florida team. Richard Westbrook, Michael Valiente came so close to a championship last year, had a couple of wins. Westy put the car on the pole at Petit, all went wrong for them in the race with the rain that we had there, the deluge, and ultimately lost the championship by a mere 3 points. And they shook the team out. Westy moved to Ford, and they brought in Ryan Dial, Mark Goosens for the full season. Ryan Hunter-Ray will not only do the endurance races, he'll also drive this car in the sprint race at Long Beach, because Ryan Dial still runs for ESM in the World Endurance Championship. There's the first round of that championship at Silverstone on the same weekend. So Ryan Hunter-Ray is going to pull double duty with the Indy car and this car at Long Beach in early April.
Boy, nice to have a driver of that caliber to step in when a driver like Ryan Dial has to step out. And number 10, Jordan Taylor, not showing any ill effects from his virus, flying at the front, leading overall at Daytona.
So now we all know that the Rolex 24 at Daytona is the kickoff for the WeatherTech SportsCar Championship, but it's also the first time many of the manufacturers and sponsors reveal the latest cars, the liveries, and the cool technology both on and off the track. Well, with that in mind, Forza 6 have introduced a new car pack with 2 very important cars added to the lineup, one of which is the race-winning Ganassi 02 Daytona prototype, and the other,
think back to 1990, Daytona, 24 hours. There was a Mercury Cougar in the race with one of our broadcast team behind the wheel, who is now, thanks to the wonders of modern technology, back behind his faithful car from that racing.
Feels good, JB.
Calvin Fish behind the wheel. He has avoided driving so we can see just how good he was for many years.
I'm not a gamer, mate, but this is absolutely amazing. How clear it is and how realistic it is.
Were you always on and off the throttle like a saw cutter like that? Or was that just specially
I got scared, mate. I get scared easy these days. And it's great just to get the feel of the racetrack again, doing the event this weekend, just to be out here and get a feel for what the boys are going to be going through.
Who would have known back then when you raced this cars, no iPad, no iPhone, and Justin Bieber hadn't even been born. Just to put it in perspective, you may have been driving a Cougar back then, but now do you know what you are? You're a Mentha, the male equivalent.
Unbelievable. Those graphics are fantastic. And I got to ask, so in the end, how did the times compare to when you were running here?
It was ugly initially, but then I think I went a lot quicker than I did when I was driving. So it's easy when you can keep resetting, hitting that button. But unbelievable graphics, great experience. I don't have one at home, but I'm going to be getting one somehow. My apologies to my wife and my young daughter, but you may not be seeing
a lot less. Yeah,
be buried in the basement.
I'll tell you, I've got some gaming equipment. Ooh, little bump right there between those two. They've been battling hard, Delalana and Jesse Crone. I was going to say, I've got some gaming equipment. I don't use it much because 6 hours can evaporate in a hurry. And there's the 45, the Flying Lizard Crone Racing combination car having a problem.
Tracy Crone behind the wheel right now. This is the older generation of the Audi. And they gave us some tweaks. It's got a bit like the Viper, actually, Greg, in terms of the older generation GTD car being given a different rear wing, more downforce, more electronic aids in terms of the TC, traction control and ABS. And that car has a lot more drag, so they actually gave it a lot more restrictor, a lot more fuel to burn during the race. And led by Thomas Blam and all the guys over there at Flying Lizard, they thought they had a really good shot at this, so it's a shame to see them by the wayside.
Yeah, it truly is, and that has brought out now our, I believe, our 19th caution of the race. And looks like it may be a driveline related issue is the report we're getting from the radio communication on the car. So we're going to step away for just a moment. Lots more to come here at Daytona.
Yeah, it feels like a drive shaft gave up. something. I can put it in gear, but it does not engage.
Welcome back to the WeatherTech SportsCar Championships opening round, the Rolex 24 at Daytona. And we are anticipating pit stops as the pit lane now open for the prototypes. So we're expecting to see a rather healthy number of them perhaps make the move down into pit lane.
Yeah, and they all should be putting a similar amount of fuel in. They all pitted within a lap of one another, so it's not like someone's on half tank, someone's on empty. So it's all down to the crews executing the tire change. And 2/3 of a fuel load needed. And it seems like they're not staying out.
They are.
Yeah, the pits are closed.
That's why they have not yet opened the pits.
Yeah.
Because they had just done the wave around, I think, didn't they? So while we're waiting for this field to come back around in the pit stop, let's take a look at some race highlights. At the start, it was the number 37, a great story, the SMP Racing BR01 from Russia on the pole. But around the outside, the number 2 of Pippo Durrani. Some great racing in the early going at GT Le Mans, then a problem for the 67.
Yeah, Ryan Briscoe behind the wheel. Suddenly they take that car to the garage. Transmission issues, stuck in 6th gear.
And the team car, though, got into a great scrap with the number 911 Porsche making the pass. Then it changed hands again.
It did. That was a battle for the lead. Joey Hand took it to the front, then traffic played a part here as Nick Tandy comes right back at him.
Big story here is the number 2 pitted from the lead. Watch the next car to pick up the lead, and it did it on outright pace. The Delta Wing in the hands of Catherine Legg went on to lead 29 laps of this race. Absolutely remarkable on pace. Problems, though, eventually into the pits for the 66.
Yeah, I think they knocked one of the brake hoses off during a wheel change here. There you see the puddle of fluid underneath the left rear corner. So, again, learning the unknowns with a new car. There you see the disconnected brake line.
And a big moment here as the number 60 got into the back of the 2 from Extreme Speed, the 2 similar cars, some contact and damage more to the number 60 car, Cal.
Yeah, a little bit of damage to the left front body work, but no penalty on that one and no real problem for the 2 car either. This is a big moment in the race. Chris Cummings stranded in turn 1. Here comes Andy Merrick.
Said he was unsighted, didn't hear any radio, said it was intermittent radio, and the hit was big enough. They tried to fix that car. It was too deep, and the Delta Wing, after being, I think, a car one of the fastest on the track, was done. Oop, bit of a moment there.
Yeah, Jamie McMurray on a restart tried to go inside the Corvette that led the field to green, got a little bit wrong on cold tires, touched the Corvette, spun him around. Then the 60 car showing pace back to the front around the 55.
And that Mazda for real as well. Then problems for the number 67 as they had a number of problems with the right rear, Cal.
Yeah, seem to be cutting that down. So I'm not sure whether it's a tire pressure issue, a bodywork issue, something rubbing, but they had a couple of problems in the same corner of the car.
Sad news here, the defending series champion from Core Autosport and Prototype Challenge, a problem, and they went behind the wall. And a big problem for them. And the 0-2, I'll tell you what, they had some struggles as well.
Brake issues for Tony Kanaan down in turn one. Had to take the car to the garage. Then a big moment in this race, the 60 car. Osnevy behind the wheel. It is lights out. Game over.
And that gave the lead to the number 2, but a problem when he blew through the pit exit red light when you have to stop, so he had a long penalty here.
Lucas Lur there. He said a brake rotor exploded on him into the wall. The car is retired.
And then the huge moment, the 2 leaders in GT Daytona. It's the 2 Huracans as well getting together. Boy, and again, Justin Marks, the 16 change car, got into the back of the leading number 48 Paul Miller car, said he had some brake issues as well.
Ben Keating goes for a quick spin there, and evasive action there from one of the leaders in GTLM. Mike Christensen, Mad Mike as we call him, down in the dirt to avoid him.
So that kind of brings you up to date here, and this time we are expecting the prototypes in. They're all down below the blend line, and leading them in will be Jordan Taylor, Pippo Durrani next up, Dial, Prio, Fittipaldi, and the leader in Prototype Challenge, the yellow car in that mix, coming in as well.
20 laps on this stint. Been going about 25 on a full fuel load, so it'll be just shy of a full fuel load. And this is where the teams really have to do their business. It's really a showcase here when they all come in together under caution. Who's got their act together? JB.
Yeah, you're right. It is a showcase. It's also a race in the pits. These teams, a lot of pride, a lot of professionalism, and a lot of practice to do this. Wayne Taylor Racing we're seeing here with the 10 new tires going on. They might as well. They weren't long in the and away they go. Jamie?
Well, the 10 is driving down pit lane. The 2 of Pippo Durrani is still sitting in their pit box. 4 new Continental tires, fuel still going in. Right now, they're going to go ahead and send him out, so they're going to lead pit lane first and second as they came. Also on pit road right in front of them is the number 37 from SMP Racing. We mentioned them earlier as the pole sitter of this race. I just checked in with the team to see what it was that caused them to fall so far down. Turns out they had some massive brake issues overnight. They had to go back in the garage twice. Good news is the brakes seem to be working at the moment. Bad news is they're 117 laps down.
One thing, if timing and scoring is cycled correctly, the 31 car, Greg, is now back on the lead lap. Johnny Adam behind the wheel. We saw that flash fire with the 31 car in a pit stop. I mean, Dane Cameron had taken the lead of the race and then on a pit stop had an issue, lost a couple of laps, but they've just played the game in terms of these yellows, getting those wave bys, and that's the nice thing. If you're going to have problems, have it early enough so you get enough yellows to get the amount of laps back that you need. You're not going to do it on pace with the competition in this field this year.
Good stop, too, by the 0-1. And so when it cycles, as you said, obviously we've got the Taylor Racing car right there with Durrani, then Andy Prio. And this is one of those scenarios, obviously, when you've got this window with the caution, you just need to get in and get those stops done. And yeah, we got people racing everywhere around here. And this is on the infield here, a little sketchy on the, a bit of a wobbly right there. Fans
like
enjoying
iffy.
it here, folks. We're going to step away under caution. We will be right back. As part of the Austin Hatcher Foundation's nationwide family support program, Visit Florida drivers Ryan Dial and Mark Guzin spent the morning socializing and building Pinewood race cars here recently. And the Foundation's family support program provides an opportunity for IMSA drivers to make a difference in children's lives at every race throughout the season. After building the cars, they went racing on the 20-foot track for the Pinewood Derby machine. And I'll tell you, that smile says it all. And you can learn more about the Austin Hatcher Foundation at hatcherfoundation.org. Do check it out. What a worthy cause. And there is that Visit Florida Racing machine right now in the hands of Ryan Dial, currently in the 6th spot right now here at the Rolex 24 at Daytona. Talk about a worthy cause as they try to erase the effects of pediatric cancer and optimize each child's quality of life.
Yeah, and I think we've got a special group of guys in our paddock in terms of when they visit those hospitals, they really put a smile on the kid's face. I mean, forget that you're a superstar race car driver. It comes down to just being human and seeing that some young kids just aren't as privileged as others and have some health issues, and it's just a joy to go there and put a smile on their faces, and great to see those two boys, Mark and Ryan, sharing some time there.
Yeah, it's humbling, isn't it?
Yes.
You know, you're a big-time race car driver, and then you see that. Really puts it in perspective. We had some GT pit stops, Jamie. What'd you see?
Well, GTD cars, a slew of them came in. Still some of them hitting pit lane now, but the biggest story was there was a lead change on pit lane. Both the 44 and the 540 made their way in. Neither one of them took tires, but the 540 did have the quicker stop, so they did take the lead exiting pit lane.
I'll tell you, it's been fun watching this whole process unfold and watching that level in that car of that 540. We've talked about it. You know, we've joked a little bit about the 3 P's of racing, as we call it: pits, pace, patience. And boy, have they executed that patience thing to perfection.
They really have. I mean, Tim Pappas has put together a great group here. He's got some really talented guys in terms of pace. He's going to have Pat Long and Nicky Katzberg, who's going to be his regular season driver, finish off this race, as Pat shared with us during his interview. They've stacked the deck with their silver drive time at the beginning of this race to allow the pros to go for the win, taking care of the car, and they're going to be really tough to beat. Look at that car, it looks beautiful. It's really been out of the wars as opposed to in the wars.
Well, and we watched every one of those drivers. When they've been into something, they've just given themselves tons of room and made sure that they had a healthy weapon when we get into the final hours of this race, and we're closing in on completing 3/4 distance as we come up here in about 6 hours and 9 minutes to go at this stage. And that's the name of the game here at this point. Get through it and have something left to really battle with at the end. And we're anticipating going back to green shortly. But before we do that, Jamie?
With Ed Brown, ESM, running third right now with Pipo Derani behind the wheel. How pleased are you with the way this race has unfolded for you guys?
You know, the car has been really good ever since the roar. And the team's done a great job, and the HPD engine here is just really, really good. So thrilled.
So we're expecting a lot of mix-up for you guys in terms of what equipment you're going to run the full season. What are your full season plans?
Well, we're going to run Sebring for sure, and then we'll kind of see how today turns out. And but then a full season in a WEC with 2 cars again. So.
What is the plan for the rest of this race today? When will we see you back behind the wheel?
I'm probably done, and I think Scott's probably done, and at least that's how it looks right now.
I see Johan is still back here waiting, so we'll look for him. Thank you.
Obviously, the concern, as you mentioned earlier, Greg, with this car is a similar power plant, an identical car. Essentially, from Mike Shank Racing, had that problem with Oz Negri behind the wheel. But as Ed Brown said, this car is performing flawlessly. And you just have to put that in the background. Probably nothing you can do about it, even if there is an issue.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that watching his pace, they haven't obviously been short shifting and taking it too easy out there, because he's been able to get up there and just battle it outright here. And we are about to go back to battle. Lights out on the Porsche pace car, and Christian Fittipaldi will be bringing him to the green.
He is, and everyone's stacking up here. It's going to be a nice shootout here. Christian Fittipaldi will lead the field to green. Jordan Taylor has shown a lot of pace and has a lot of ability on the brakes down into turn 1. How much will he push it? And Pipo Derani, he has been a flying machine. He holds down the fastest lap of this race right now in the first couple of hours at a 1:39.1. The best we've seen from the guys around them is like low 40s, mid 40s. So he may have a second in hand in terms of outright pace if the car's still in the same sort of shape.
Well, I'll tell you, for those not familiar with Pipo, it's what a find.
Yeah. He's going to be driving full-time with the ESM squad over in the Global Championship, the World Endurance Championship.
He wasn't originally slated to be part of the team for this race, and I think they're awfully happy they brought him in. And we're happy to be going back to green. And Fittipaldi in the Mustang Sampling Action Express Corvette DP. Look at the move there. Ryan Dial down to the inside, 3 abreast.
Look at Johnny Adam, the outside in the 31 machine. We talked about that car getting back on the lead lap. This is our Sunoco Challenge winner, mixing it up with the big dogs. Great performance by that young Englishman.
Yeah, I thought Dial was going to be the guy to make the move, and Adam picked up 2 spots there in one shot. Oh, and the GT Le Mans car battle, that is fierce as well. And way down to the inside goes the number 4 of Tommy Milner. And it didn't quite pay off for him, but where he wanted to go. The track was pretty filled up, so he tried the option.
Yeah, and I tell you what, those GTLM cars, the Michelin tires really come alive quickly. You can see the grip that they've got in these low-speed corners on the first lap on a restart. Pretty remarkable.
This was the restart for Frederick Makovecki, who picked up the lead. It had been Garcia leading him down in there, and Mako just able to get up and around him here, put that prototype challenge car between he and those two Corvettes. And he'll like that. Let's go back and check this one out. And also watch, we're being told, ooh, the 85 PC car just lit them up. That car, those cars do not have TC yet.
No, not yet. They're going to have a host of changes that they'll get for the second round of the championship at Sebring. But right now, yeah, very easy to light up the cold tires. If you're in a low gear and you just hit the gas pedal, it's going to turn it around.
Boy, you can see Makovecki there use that prototype challenge car as a pick a bit going into one. And that parked Garcia. Around he went. So that's 1, 2, 3 right now in GT Le Mans. Makovecki in the 912 Porsche, and then the two Corvettes, Garcia in the 3, Milner in the 4. Fourth in that class, Alexandra Prima for the number 68 Scuderia Corsa Ferrari, and the BMW number 25 of Augusto Farfus. That is your top 5 in this class with those 3 lockstep. There you see some of the other cars coming up.
And in 6th spot, a great performance here by Victor Shaitar. He won at Le Mans last year. He won the GTE AM class for the championship season in the WEC, the WEC. So he's familiar with Ferraris, and they're putting on a great performance here with the number 72 car.
Yeah, from SMP Racing, also fielding the pole-sitting number 37 prototype car. So running a couple of vastly different programs here as we hop on board with Garcia. And there's that prototype challenge car up in front of Makovecki.
Beautiful sound of this big American-built V8. When I drove for Jack Roush here, we saw the Forza 6 game when I was driving that Cougar. I mean, the nice thing about that car was it gave you great torque and ability to deal with traffic. But the nice thing was when you did take a nap and you woke up in the motorhome, you could tell if you were still running. So distinctive was the sound. It's like, is there 2 of them? Yeah, we're good.
Well, and that's what a lot of fans like about these 2 Corvettes, isn't it? There is that very special sound that only these Velocity Yellow Corvette racing machines seem to make in a late deep move by Durrani.
That's for second, I believe. I think Christian may still be out front, so that's a move for second. That P2 machine, it's a lot lighter car, and ultimately with this 3.5 liter motor has similar power now to the Daytona prototype, so it has everything. It ticks all of the boxes for this season.
And the question is, how far on that opening couple of laps has Christian Fittipaldi been able to pull it? About 2 seconds last time by the line, and at about 2.2 right now. And here
Look
is
under the brakes, though. Again, that 10 car, doesn't matter who driving it, who they're around, they just have an advantage here. But down into the bus stop chicane, just pulls the draft, gets to the inside, and you really can't fight it at that point. Once he's got alongside you, you've got to let him go, otherwise you're going to have a rub, and it's a really dangerous area of the racetrack to get too much into a heated battle.
Yeah, and especially if you get tinked and you float through that grass on the approach, oftentimes you come right across in front of somebody and can collect them. So, and again, lots of time left in this race, still over 6 hours, and doing the right thing. There you see Fittipaldi, that's the margin from him back to this battle for second.
Yeah, and we spoke to Ed Brown about whether he's going to get back in. He said, no, I'm probably done. Sharpie's probably done. So I think what they'll do, they'll probably do a couple hours with Durrani here, get Johannes Van Over back in for a couple hours, and then Pip will finish this thing off if the car's still in good shape.
Boy, look at that. Antonio Garcia tried to get up just enough along the outside of Makovecki to make him tighten up his entry, not be able to use the full track, maybe slow him up onto the banking, and it looks like it may have paid off.
It does. They're going to be side by side as they get to the back straightaway, and I think Garcia may just clear him. The question mark is now, does Makovecki just hold that center lane and wait for the brake zone to still hold position into the bus stop? He does.
Yes. he knew exactly what he had to do, obviously.
Yeah, he was going to give him the high line there, so if he had drifted up high and allowed Garcia to slide underneath him, it would have been a reversal in terms of the track position for the brake zone. So just smart driving there by the very fast Porsche driver.
We are just seeing some, not as we always have from these drivers, great performances, but with the new aero on these cars, just what they're able to do on the track, and the drivers say they're even more fun. Garcia thought about it, Cal, couldn't quite get down to the inside at the right time, checks up.
And you may say, well, the Corvette looks a little bit stronger on the straightaway, but the draft effect here at Daytona is remarkable. When these GTLM cars are getting up to their terminal speed, which is about 180 or so, suddenly in the draft you'll pick up 3-4 miles an hour, and it looks like you have an advantage.
Yeah, when they came up on the banking in turn 6, you could see it was fairly even here. Ooh, good battle back there for 4th, by the way. Farfus, just in the back of your screen, came right up on the back of Alexandre Prima in the 68 Scuderia Corsa Ferrari, but couldn't make that move either. But those two are drawing right into this group.
They're right into this group. We talked about it when we talked about change and what to expect in GTLM. We had new cars coming in, Ferrari, BMW, Ford. They've all shown pace here today. And we said the cars to beat will be Porsche, champions last year, and Corvette, who won this race. And you're looking at it right there on the screen.
And looking at the GT Daytona class, the number 44 of Andy Lally right now from Magnus Racing continues to lead. But that great program and plan being executed to perfection by the 540 Black Swan team. Andy Pilgrim sits in 2nd. And there you see him in front of that orange and blue Turner Motorsport, the new BMW in the class, sitting right now in 3rd. Jesse Krohn behind the wheel.
Yeah, and Jesse Krohn is one of the BMW junior drivers and has really just been brought up nicely through their various race programs. Did some races with Andy Prio in the ELMS last year. And they have a lot of faith in his abilities, and he's showing it right now.
Absolutely. Right behind them, Wolf Hensler in the number 23. There he is, the Team Seattle machine. And right behind him now, Pedro Lamy has taken over. And this battle for the front in GT Le Mans continues to be fabulous. Again, Garcia taking a look and actually had him. He got around going down the front straight at the start line, and then Mako able to out-deep him again and reclaim the position. Fascinating stuff in all the classes. Stay with us. It's usually the final 2 hours here at the Rolex 24 at Daytona when the battles start to really heat up in all the classes. Not this year, folks. We're just inside 6 hours remaining and 3 classes. The battles are absolutely furious, including overall. That is Christian Fittipaldi leading, but Pipo Derani in that number 2, while we were in break, has twice taken a look, made a lunge, got rebuffed going into both the bus stop and into turn 1. And Jordan Taylor is right there as well for Wayne Taylor Racing. And then just off a little bit, the Scotsman, Johnny Adam, in the number 31 as well in the hunt. Traffic now, Cal.
Traffic, and Christian Fittipaldi was pretty aggressive in terms of defending that lead from Pipo Derani down into the bus stop chicane just 1 lap ago. But just talking about the battles, Greg, we've got 6 cars on the lead lap. The last of the 6, Andy Prio, is very much in the mix in the 01 machine. In GTLM, we have the top 7 cars on the lead lap. In GTD, we have the top 12 cars on the lead lap. So other than Prototype Challenge, it is game on.
Oh, and we're hearing here we've got maybe the number 31 Whelan car from Action Express showing a little bit of smoke, and the report is possibly a gearbox issue.
I think he may have ducked into pit lane as we speak.
Is.
There he is. Does he go straight to the garage? Yes, he does.
Into the garage.
Oh, wow. And remember, folks, this is the car that
just got back onto the lead lap, Greg, and very much in the mix. It was a great performance by this group. They had that problem in the pit stop with the fire, dropped them a lap and a half, 2 laps down. They clawed their way back to the lead in the lead battle. So remember last year they had a few issues, finished 4th, and we're really hoping they could get their first win here in the Rolex 24 here today.
Well, there's no question that they had the pace, obviously just a couple of issues, and that fire was, you know, it wasn't anything where something had let loose in the car. It was just a fuel fire, essentially, with the rig.
This is where Derani is pretty strong. He really seems to accelerate well through this turn 2, NASCAR 2, and really draw up on Christian, and he was battling him into the brake zone a couple of laps ago. Let's see how close he gets this time. See there, Christian is not blocking. He's not changing his line. You're allowed to pick your own line as long as you don't move from that. You can't react. You can be proactive in terms of determining where you want to position your car, but you cannot react to a guy who's trying to pass you.
Yeah, essentially, you can take any line you want out of the corner as long as you're consistent. How far back is it that you really start to feel that draft?
Oh, you can feel it from probably 5-6 cars back, but it just accelerates even more as you get closer. And I think he's got a nice run here. Christian was really deep on the brakes last time down into turn 1. He doesn't want to give this up. And you'd have to be thinking big picture a little bit, Christian, but he's really want to duke it out for the lead right now.
And Pippo.
Remember, Durrani's not in it for the championship. This car's not in it for the championship. Christian Fittipaldi and Action Express are, so you got to be careful. You haven't raced against this guy on a consistent basis. What is he going to do if you get this aggressive for too many laps? Will he make a banzai move and be heartbreak for everyone?
Well, and again, you've got a guy in that number 5 car who's done a lot of long-distance endurance racing. I'm not sure this young rookie has done much of that.
He sees the traffic as maybe the opportunity. Which way will this Ferrari go? He's going to block Durrani, I think. He gets him in the pass. See, this can get ugly in a hurry. This can get ugly in a hurry. And I think Ian Watt and the Action Express crew will be looking at these pictures and maybe saying to Christian, be careful, be careful. Don't get in too much of a fight. Don't throw it all away.
And as I said, I think, you know, Pippo with not having a lot of endurance racing experience at this level, just having some exuberance right now, wants that lead. And I think he feels if he can actually take it, he'll be able to drive away. And he's there this time, isn't he?
Yeah, you get the inside line for the bus stops. We saw with Jordan a few laps ago. You just have to give it up.
Boy, and that little bit of side-by-side duking it out here has allowed Jordan to come right into this.
Yeah, this will be good. I'm going to like this battle in the brake zone because Christian's shown some strength there, but the 10 car has been dynamite on the brakes down into turn 1. So if Jordan's close enough, he may have a think about it.
Let's see what he does now. He starts to pick that draft up a little bit. I don't know that he's close enough this time, though, Cal.
No, he's not going to be close enough, I don't think. And the number 5 car, identical cars essentially in terms of the GM power plant. Different chassis underneath. Dallara for the number 10 and Coyote for the number 5. And this is where it can go wrong. Suddenly he can catch a bump or something. He can turn sideways, shred into the side of that 5 car. And it wouldn't have been Christian's fault, but he's just putting himself in a scenario you really don't need to be in with just under 6 hours to go.
Yeah, I mean, you could see when he came to that curbing on the outside, that car jumped a lot, could have easily speared sideways, able to make it work. And as we predicted, he was going to drive away just a little bit, but now Taylor again on the brakes, he's going to try and get up along the outside.
Yeah, don't get me wrong, I love to see a fight.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
doubt.
I love to see these guys going at it like this, but if it was the last 30 minutes, I get it. But when there's a long way to go and the guy's showing incredible pace, it's just a matter of time. Holding him off for 3 more laps, what difference does that make?
Yes, yeah. Well, and as we said, we're at 5 hours and 50 minutes yet to go. We've had, I think, 19 cautions thus far. You can work hard and build that big margin up at the front. It's going to probably go away 2, 3, 4 more times here in the race. And we got a problem. There is the number 31 down in the garage area. Justin?
Yeah, obviously you can imagine they're giving this a full attention. Apparently it's on the left rear drive shaft. That's what I heard shouted across from team member to team member. Johnny Adam is, Johnny, I'll grab him quickly. Johnny, I'll grab you here. Just quickly, fast, what it was like. Obviously, mate.
Drive shaft.
Drive shaft, okay. So you were out, where did it happen for you, on the banking?
No, exit bus stop. Okay. Kind of smelled something maybe a lap earlier, and then obviously it went kind of exit bus stop. So no traction, no drive. So yeah, guys are obviously going to put one in and get us back out. But we got back on the lead lap there, line 4 overall after our little fire earlier on. Car was going well. The team have done a great job all night, to turn the cars around. And it's just a shame these things happen. And yeah, unfortunately, it's not been our day.
You can tell, what happens here, you know how hard it is, Cal. You work all your way back to get on that lead lap, and then it all dissipates just like that. But they've got 6 hours to at least try and get points, and points count, don't they, at this stage of the championship?
Absolutely. We saw that last year, and I adopted him as a fellow Englishman when he was battling for the lead, but now he's in the garage. He's Scottish.
No question, he's Scottish. Absolutely. And there's no quit in this 31 Whelen Action Express team. As he talked about, they fought back onto the lead lap, and they're going to do what they can. Now, while we were following all that, when Antonio Garcia couldn't do it by himself and get the pass made on Frederick Makovecki, watch what happened here as the number 4, Tommy Milner, came up, and these guys started to play the team game to perfection. And you can see Antonio getting up to the outside and getting a good run. But Milner said, well, let me see what I can do for you, and just moved up and gave him that little bit of arrow push.
Yeah, this is cool stuff, and you can see all of the different marks here. The Ferrari of Prima very much in the mix. Augusto Farfus there in the number 25 BMW, and yeah, just that little shove, as you call it, that aero shove, just gave him enough to make the move and take the lead of this motor race once again.
And yeah, Tommy able to just get enough of the nose of that number 4 in front that he was able to ramp around the outside of turn 1, slide into second, then Makovecki now in third. Now this we're just hearing just was a very spooky moment here.
Watch this. So traffic. Milner tucks it to the inside and grabs the lead from his teammate.
So, well, you got a 50-50 shot in those situations, which side you choose. And that time, as the old saying goes, Mr. Milner chose wisely. Jamie?
I was just listening in on the team radio for Corvette, and Dan Banks was talking to Antonio Garcia and told him that now that the two of you are hooked up, we're going to have you guys stay together and try and build up a lead. You guys are faster. Both of you are faster than the Porsches at the moment. So try and stay together, work the traffic together. So keep an eye on that teamwork. I expect it to continue for the next several laps.
I'll be curious to see, I mean, because the Porsches have shown excellent pace, and with the Michelin tires, there's two forms of the medium tire, and one is a little bit softer than the others, and they only had so many of each. So what you may be doing, if you suddenly see the Porsche fading a little bit, maybe they're just having to try and cycle through their harder tires to get those out of the way to leave them the faster, softer tires when they need it at the end of this race.
That would make sense. This would certainly be the time to do it. That's a very good point indeed. By the way, while all of that was unfolding, Augusto Farfus was able to sneak by Prima and has now moved up into 4th in the 25 BMW, with the 68 Scuderia car sitting right behind him still in that 5th spot, and really not too far back of them. That 72 SMP Ferrari and GT Le Mans Victor Seitar sits close at hand as well. But boy, these two Corvettes doing exactly what Doug Fian wanted them to do, that Jamie just told us, in very short order, just easing away a little bit, as is Durrani up front, Cal. Once he got to the point, that margin last time by start finish was up to over 3.5 seconds. And he's, I'm sure, no doubt, just going to continue to build that margin up here over Fittipaldi. Taylor, again, Andy Prio just not able to match right now the speed. And as we take a look here now, this is also the opening round of the Tequila Patrón North American Endurance Cup, and it covers an awful lot of competition over the 4 races that it comprises. We're now through the 3rd segment, and here's how the order sits.
Yeah, and this is accumulating the points from the first 3 markers in this race at 6, 12, and now the 18 mark. You can see the leaders in each category there, and there's some nice bonuses at the end of the year. Not thinking about it so much right now, but actually some of the teams really strategize in terms of when they pit for fuel, knowing where those markers are, where you're going to get the bonus points. Essentially, if you lead at that point, it's 5 points, second is 4, third is third, and everyone else in the class gets 2 points.
And, you know, obviously all the teams pay a little attention to it, but there are teams here that are running just those 4 events. That is what they are all about here. And everybody's still trying to grab a little shut-eye before things get fierce, and that's coming. In just 3 weeks, the Great American Race returns here to Daytona and makes its debut at the world's first motorsports stadium, Daytona Rising. Don't miss the Daytona 500 Sunday, February 21st, only on your local Fox affiliate. What a facility those fans are going to have when they come here, and using the injectors here that send you all, whether it's escalator, whether it's elevator. And they say when you walk into one of those injectors that takes you to whatever your section is, when you get off an escalator, it's no more than a 20-foot walk to an elevator that you may need to take, and no more than a 20-foot walk to get into your section. That's pretty amazing stuff. And we've talked a lot about what this thing is all about, $400 million, and it is phenomenal. I'm kind of a space geek. The stat that just really drives me here is the fact that it's 9/10 of a mile long. When the engineers were designing this new thing, they had to account for the curvature of the Earth. It went from end 7 inches and back down. That tells you something about the scope of this place.
It's simply amazing. We had a chance to have a good look at it 3 weeks ago here at the test. Joey Chitwood, to managers here at the Daytona International Speedway, was kind enough to give us an hour of his time, and Julie Giese, and we walked around, and just unbelievable, just state-of-the-art, nothing like it in terms of motorsports in the US. It really reminds you of one of these current state-of-the-art football stadiums, and the terrace level down here with the hospitality area is just first-class treatment.
And the Wi-Fi, the feeds that they've got an app that actually it will tell you where you need to go, how you need to get to your seats. And they told me that they have enough optical cable run for all of the various feeds here that they could string a line from here to the North Pole.
It's pretty. It's unreal. It really is. And obviously now we're in an amazing TV booth set up, and just world class. I mean, top of the tree.
Yeah, we're up in the suite area here, and I'll tell you, I envy everybody sitting in the suites. We've actually got one right next door here, and the view from the comfort. But every one of these has the ability to send you right out into the seats if you want to get out and experience that. And boy, I'll tell you, it's been a rough go, even though awfully fast for that number 48 Paul Miller Racing team in the Lamborghini. They've had great speed, led a lot of laps, but now they're going to have a drive-through penalty. The fire bottle operator down in pit lane apparently wasn't attired correctly, and that's important, obviously. And we saw that with the number 31 car. That's why they're sticklers on those rules, and you really have to be.
Yeah, I mean, it's just safety is obviously paramount, and again, focus. It's easy just to make a little mistake. You're tired and you're not thinking correctly at this stage of the game. They've had a lot of work to do to get that car back out there as well, obviously, with the hip. But just heard some radio communication from Ian Watt, I believe, to Christian Fittipaldi, saying he's going to be pitting this lap. Great battle here in GTD. This is for the 2nd position. Oof. Wolf Hensler behind the wheel. Porsche factory guy gets in there really deep. Looks like that rear diffuser panel is coming loose underneath the engine there.
And he, of course, has company right behind him in the number 98 of Pedro Lamy. And I don't know that they touch, but surely got Wolf a little bit offline there.
Obviously, Wolf Hensler and Brian Sellers are no longer part of the GTLM class this year with the Falcon Tire program, moving away. But they've both found great seats. Brian for the year with Paul Miller Racing, and Wolf will be doing some of the Enduros. Is still part of the Porsche support for their teams.
And into the pits here comes the number 5 of Christian Fittipaldi.
Yeah, driver change going in from the right on the Action Express car. Out gets Christian. That was a hard, long stint. Of course, right now, they're not going to want to mess up. They're going to do everything as it's like controlled chaos, controlled speed, less haste, more speed. The hose just got caught up on the back of the car. That's the only trouble with that rear diffuser, but done. The left, do not drop the car. The rear left tire is not on. It delayed the synchronicity of that as he pulled off. They lost like only 3 or 4 seconds, but just shows disaster can be one moment away just because the hose got caught up.
You could see the confusion there. We talked about focus. The guy who's waving the car out, he wasn't seeing everything clearly, and basically waved the driver out before everything was completed. As JB said, there was still a little bit of a hang-up on the left rear, and the car was obviously still in the air, so that's the first clue to the driver. You're not on the deck. But even so, you panic. You're looking at the guy waiting to go. He says go, and it's like, something's not right here. But, you know, so this is how it can go awry, and it's all about keeping that focus and concentration over the course of 24 hours.
Yeah, Felipe Albuquerque getting on board, and I think that was a great reaction by him because he got the wave. You hear the rev came up, and the guy changed, and he didn't throw it in gear, spin those wheels. We've seen what can happen with penalty stops for that, so nice job.
Well, you get into a rhythm, and I think the guy who's pointing him out has sort of like felt the rhythm of the pit stop should be where he's waving him out, but something had gone awry and they weren't quite in sync.
Meanwhile, back into GT Daytona, that battle that we've been watching, there it is, the number 23 Team Seattle entry of Hensler and Pedro Lamy right behind him in that white Aston Martin Racing, Aston Martin Vantage. And they're having a great scrap for that 3rd spot right now behind Andy Lally and Jesse Krohn. And these two have already had some fairly close moments.
Yeah, they have. And Wolfie's been pushing really hard. I'm not sure whether that rear under tray to the engine, the rear diffuser kind of area is not as intricate as the GTLM cars, obviously, in terms of creating the downforce, but with it being loose, that may be giving him some issues down into that brake zone into turn 1. But we just see the different marks all battling out. Audi leads from BMW, from Porsche, from Aston Martin, from another Porsche, Gunnar Jeanette. Great to see him back behind the wheel as one of the co-drivers for the Enduros in the number 22 WeatherTech machine.
That's a pretty good lineup in that car as well, obviously. That car sits 5th right now. Andy Pilgrim, again, on that plan and that program for the 540 Black Swan car, still right there, 6th, same lap. A little bit of time back, but that car is among the most pristine that we've seen here. There's Gunnar in the WeatherTech machine, obviously, with father-son duo part of the driving in this car, the full season driver. Cooper McNeil teamed up with Lee Keen, but his dad David on board. And David said that he'd pretty much been out of the driver's seat for a long time. Then they got together, started to do a little bit of vintage racing, and he said, yeah, the hook started to set again.
Yeah, it's awesome. I'm not sure how much drive time he's had, because they got 3 silver drivers or silver and bronze rated drivers in there, so it's not imperative for David to do the full 5 hours. That can be taken care of by Cooper McNeil and Gunnar Jeanette. So just nice for David to have a chance to get behind the wheel, and great to see him supporting not only his son's racing and the Alex Job racing team, but also the championship. It's great to have that company with so much success and so much branding appeal as part of our championship.
Boy, you know, you take a look at the rear wing on that car and the way it seems to be set up a lot. I don't know if that's intentional and they're just looking for absolute straight line speed, but obviously the way the air flows, it's what it does over the top of the wing that generates the downforce. But that just seems a different rake to me.
Yeah, it does. It's quite extreme in terms of having it laid back to try and take some drag out of the car and giving it straightaway speed. That obviously then affects the downforce into the corners in terms of the braking and through the corners. 31 car back underway.
There you go. For all of the fans of this car, it is back. That's how quick in the right hands you can do a half shaft change. We're going to step away from the Rolex 24 at Daytona. 5.5 hours still to go. The glorious roar of the Corvette V8 in the hands of Antonio Garcia as he chases teammate Tommy Milner here at the Rolex 24 at Daytona. They are running 1-2 in the GT Le Mans category right now and having an absolutely fabulous run of it, Jamie. And I'll tell you what, you are with somebody who has got to be incredibly proud, as always, of what's unfolding here.
That's right. And Mark Royce, he does have one of the best seats in the house. You see all of the monitors behind him. You were just taking a peek at it. To see the 4 leading the 3, leading the rest of the GTLM field, what does that tell you about the work that was done over the offseason?
Well, I'll tell you what, you know, this is all about teamwork and durability, and we learned so much in our production cars. I'm racing out here with Corvette, and the transfer is unbelievable. So to see those 2 out front here with our Z06s and, you know, our wonderful team here and all of our drivers is best weekend of the year for me.
There have been a lot of developments on these cars, especially in terms of aerodynamic in the offseason. What kind of technology transfer will you learn from this to take to production?
Well, there's a lot of thermal. We learn a ton thermally here, and also durability-wise. So the aerodynamic piece of this, we got a little bit bigger wing here. We've got a little bit more dramatic downforce at the rocker level here, so that'll transfer back into our Z06 and maybe some other Corvettes as you know, the future rolls out here.
Now, you said that you did get a little bit of sleep. You look fresh. You look like you're refreshed, ready for the end of this race. Where are you going to be camped out to watch the checkers?
Well, I'll tell you what. Again, this is all about the team here. So every person here is just totally professional. And if we are lucky enough to get to the winner's circle today, I'll be there, and I'll just be behind everybody and cheering them on. So this is just a wonderful event.
I love the excitement. Thank you for the time, Justin.
Thank you so much.
Well, Christian, I know you're a fit chap, but you just got out of that number 5, having had a charging, hard-paced stint. I mean, it's satisfying to get out this time in the morning, and the car's running so strong.
Well, the car is definitely running strong. There's no doubt that we're trying our very best out there. We're in the hunt. We still have a chance, but unfortunately, like the P2s are way too strong. I tried holding up the 2 behind me for 2 laps just to see where he was better than I. And then I just gave up because there's 5.5 hours to go and we can't risk anything. So let's continue running the same pace that we're doing, and when it boils down to an hour, 2 hours, we'll see what we can do.
Yeah, because the young kid was giving it everything, and he was definitely looking to see whether he could dive by. Were you pretty confident he wasn't going to make a stupid move, or were you prepared for something unexpected?
You're talking about the 10 or the 2?
The 2, the 2.
No, I think, yeah, I was pretty tough out there with him, but I think we were both careful. I was careful with him, and he was careful with me. Maybe it wouldn't have been the case if it was the last lap of the race for sure, or 2 or 3 laps to go. But as I mentioned before, after 2 laps, then I just gave up, and he blew by me, and he probably was opening half a second, maybe even more a lap. So there's no point in fighting.
So you can, Cal, I think you were pretty right about your analysis of that situation. The P2 car has the ability to go by, and Christian was really just sussing out the situation, but he's confident but a little resigned there, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely, and I think everyone in the prototype field recognizes the 2 car has the pace right now, but there's still a long way to go, and I think there's a bit of national pride there with the 2 Brazilians going head-to-head as well at the front of this field.
That's a good point, isn't it? Absolutely. Or we're anticipating possibly our top 2, Durrani and the number 10 here of Jordan Taylor, maybe ducking into the pits. You know, after talking with Mark Royce, just something to think about here with this new Daytona Rising. Some of the manufacturers have become founding partners of the concept, as we see the number 2 coming down into pit lane, and they have their own, the Chevy Injector here, and they are going to be releasing 5 new high-profile models this year. And keep in mind, across all the different types of racing here at Daytona, the major ones, Chevy has over 40 victories, so they are definitely tied to this event as the number 2 hits his marks.
27 lap stint here for the number 2, so they're getting very similar fuel mileage. So again, we talk about balance of performance in terms of the series, looking at the performance criteria of the various configurations, trying to get them the same on the racetrack, which is not easy, particularly as every racetrack has different pros and cons, and also in terms of how much fuel mileage they get, how long it takes to refuel the car, to really give everyone an even playing field. But right now, this Honda with a 3.5 liter motor in there.
Wait, break.
That was a delayed radio message, possibly.
Yeah.
Someone was coming into their pit stall ahead of them. But it really seems to have made a difference this year with that 3.5 liter motor. It was very strong immediately at the test back in November. They worked on the drivability. If that wasn't good, it's a bit like a light switch, an on-off switch when you hit the gas pedal. But did a lot of work with that. Mike Schenk Racing did some testing down at Palm Beach International Raceway before the Raw, and made a lot of gains. And obviously that information is transferred over to all of the Honda teams.
0-2 in as well. This is the car that has shown great speed, the defending race champion car. Number of laps back right now, but still 6 overall. And talking about that Nissan development moving up, the bigger the displacement normally, the better the torque. And when you're in traffic in particular, that's a huge weapon to have. So once they got that drivability figured out, clearly that car's more effective now.
Yeah, very much. It's going to be a really sharp weapon for Mike Schenk. He'll be campaigning the Honda power for the full season. Here we see Jordan Taylor. He's done a mega stint here. I think he's feeling okay. I mean, we talked about his health issues, and Jamie's in their pit stall.
And Jordan will be getting out of the car. Max Angelelli was up on the wall and ready. They did stay out 1 lap longer than the rest of the prototype field, so this team had a couple extra seconds to catch their breath, get ready to go. 4 new Continental tires going on this machine. The right sides are done, left side's being done now. They're still getting Max strapped into the car. When Jordan was behind the wheel, he did have an instance where the left lap belt came undone, but he was able to get that back fastened out on the racetrack, so it didn't end up being an issue. Clean stop for Wayne Taylor Racing.
Yeah, great point, Jamie, in terms of them doing 1 more lap. That's one of the things that Jordan Taylor does well, amongst many others, is fuel save. He's able to run the same pace as other drivers and still eke out an extra lap. So not a big factor right now, but suddenly if you get down to back timing this race and he's going to be in the car at the end of the race, you can get 1 more lap. Who knows? That could really be a big play in the strategy in terms of eliminating a need for a splash.
I think he and Joao Barbosa, too, the absolute best at that from what I've seen over the years here. And here's Christian Fittipaldi as he's just enjoying what's unfolding. So Jordan Taylor, at the time of the pit stop, was in the lead. Chris Miller, Minnesota driver from that great team, up front in Prototype Challenge. Tremendous history here at Daytona in the Rolex 24. And for this man, Roger Penske, after he decided to retire from racing and work on a dealership, he decided to create a team. And in 1966, in this beautiful number 6 Corvette, that team earned its first ever win as a racing team. And it started just a legacy that is virtually unmatched. Obviously, the early years with Mark Donohue, and then moving in and adopting so many different types of racing, and eventually ending up with an immense record, obviously, at the Indy 500 and in IndyCar Series racing. And there you take a look at where IndyCar racers are currently at, keeping in mind Christian Fittipaldi used to drive an IndyCar.
Yeah, and you could add Rubens Barrichello to that mix as well. He obviously did a little bit of IndyCar stuff recently, and his car, the 10 car, is running in the 2nd spot right now. So the IndyCar boys just love to get here to this big race. They want to win a Rolex. They want to get back in a race car. It's a long off season with the IndyCar schedule, so just a great way of knocking the rust off and getting race fit once again.
Yeah, absolutely. Here we're watching some of the front runners in the GT Daytona class. There's the number 44, Magnus Audi, second in the screen, that has been leading for so long, and that number 97, Turner Motorsport BMW, that's been so quick. We also had some pit stops for the GT Le Mans category. We'll update you on that. And as a matter of fact, here is the number 4. It was the 3 that came in, and the 912, I think, if Christensen came in, and they came in and left in pretty much the same order. And then the number 4 of Tommy Milner waiting one more lap. Let's check in with Jamie.
Well, the reason they waited one more lap, Greg, was because of the way they're set up on pit lane. The 3 is pitted before, in front of the 4 car. So if they would have come in the order they were in, there would have been too much traffic. So they separated them by a lap. Also a little bit of a different strategy. In the 3 car, they did do a driver change. So Mike Rockenfeller now behind the wheel of that machine. In the 4, Tommy Milner stayed in. Justin?
Well, as Greg just said, Christensen got in the 912. It's interesting, they're obviously just one lap apart on their strategy here as they cycled through. On the 911, when it came in, they did check the rear right. It looked like he was checking the rear right wheel, the brake wear on the rear right, which was interesting because we saw them change them not long ago. Could have just been standard operating procedure, but a good stop here for Porsche. I mean, right now, it's interesting, Calvin, I think you guys referred to it earlier. It's that almost tension starting to build before the pounce at the end of the race. You're making sure your strategy is set. You're working out who's going to get in the car, and also they're back timing, as you say, on the fuel, hoping it's going to go green to the end, or maybe for some teams not hoping it's going to go green. The thing about the tires and what tires to put on, especially with the Michelins, they do have options. The medium soft, the medium hard. 30 degrees, around 84 degrees is the window for that last night as they went into it. And obviously, as they're going into warmer temperatures this morning, there isn't enough of every tire for every team to run the maximum of the best optimum tire for every situation. It simply is logistically not possible. So every team has to work within its allocation. And I think you were right. A little earlier, we saw the Corvettes are blindingly fast right now, but there's nothing wrong with these Porsches. So I really feel that that you're right, Cal, that they are literally maybe burning up some of the tires that are optimal for this situation. But they're not really losing much ground on track. It's very calculated.
Oh, and there's the 911 car. Kevin Estre locked up a brake coming through turn 6.
He floated wide in the
I wonder if he's got a tire going down the court. Drive shaft.
Oh boy. Yeah, he came into the International Horseshoe and just went way wide, and then, you saw him lock up going into 6. So
initially, I thought just after a pit stop there may have been a tire issue, and that was why he's locking up, and now he may have cut one down. But now he's saying, Kevin Estre, what a guy he is, Greg. We've seen him a lot over the last couple of years. He is a flying machine, and he's just in for the Enduros over here now. Becomes a Porsche factory driver, never been a McLaren factory driver last year. He is going to be a great asset to this group.
Oh, he truly is. Just extremely quick. There's another look at the moment down into 6, Cal.
Yeah, and just see he just can't get it turned. And initially I thought it was a tire issue, but if he doesn't have the normal drive and retardation with the car as well through the gears, that's going to happen.
So let's check in with Justin on the scene.
Yeah, they've gone to the rear left, haven't they? Obviously, everybody from both cars watching very closely what is happening here. I'm trying to get a closer look. You can see the mechanic's head is down under. He's looking at. Looks like he's looking at the way the caliper is sitting onto the disc there. You know what I mean, Calvin? He's actually he's fiddling with trying to manually rotate there for movement in the disc. That's interesting. Just checking what's happening with the drive shaft there. I'll have to give you an update, guys, when they eventually get this resolved.
Yeah, well, obviously with the wheel off, so they can take a closer look. They use the brake rotor to move backwards and forwards to see what may be amiss in the driveline system. Look at this battle here. BMW Dirk Vernon now behind the wheel of the 25 machine, going up against Michael Christensen, and that BMW really strong into the brake zone. Mad Mike gives it to him. Didn't want to, but had to.
It's interesting, isn't it? Just seeing now in reference to the 912, the size of the BMW after being used to watching the Z4s, which was a whole different platform and much smaller, and certainly seems to be working now. The number 85 has been spending a bit of time in the pits. Jamie?
That's right, Greg. And now they're trying to get the bodywork fitted back on the car. They had to take that nose off in order to switch out the front toe link on this car. They had much of a 20-lap lead early on. Now that lead is down to 10 laps, but they do feel confident in the work that's been done. Meanwhile, up pit lane a little bit, that 912 is stopped on pit road.
Yeah, it's the 911, Jamie. From here, you can see as they look down, the mechanics all crouched as he went away. He could not, certainly couldn't spin the wheels as he pulled out of here, and it was a very intermittent launch, and then he just ground to a halt. You could tell his engineers up on the pit box talking to him as they pull it back in. So this is a most un-Porsche-like moment. When I find out more, I will let you know.
Yeah, they obviously couldn't see anything, JB said.
Going to the box. They're going back to the pits, Calvin. They're going to have to go back to the box.
Yeah, they can get a lot more men over the wall and, well, not over the wall, but working on the car when they get back to the garage. Only 4 working crew are allowed on pit lane. The driver's not allowed to reverse the car, even if he had the ability to right now with the issue. You got to push it back per the rule book. And this is one of the leading contenders in our GT Lam category.
Yeah, without doubt. Let's listen to what happened leaving the pits.
Yeah, he's just not going to drive. With the differential, it's not going to give you enough power. It's going to...
So they immediately jumped on the scenario, and that car now, as you said, one of the front runners here, and certainly one of the contenders for the entire season. And of course, that team ended up with a great run to the championship late in the year last year.
Yeah, they certainly did. And there's got to be something in the diff or somewhere there. They couldn't see anything in terms of actually anything snapped that they could see visually as something internal now. And here the battle continues. And the BMW putting on a great performance here on its debut with the M6. No, Jens Marquardt and the whole BMW Motorsport squadron, they'll be very, very happy with how this car has performed on its debut. Qualified in the 3rd spot with John Edwards with the number 100 machine, celebrating 100 years for BMW. And the 25 car had a couple of tire issues, but other than that, has been really, really quick.
And we were talking about those unknowns coming in, you know, to the race with this new platform. We've seen some of the other new cars and the struggles they've had. I think, yeah, you said it, very happy with how this car has performed here in its race debut.
And backing up to November, there's a big test here at November, and that car was running some mileage. And talking to the drivers, they all kind of looked, you know what, I'm not sure we have a good tool for this year. And they had some handling issues, they had some engine response issues, and the BMW group just went to work, got the engine a lot better. They got a little bit more boost, and ooh, that was tight. And then Michelin developed a new tire for them, and it really transformed the car. I mean, talking to John Edwards and Bill Oberlin, they just said, man, the car is a totally different beast now.
Well, and that's what Michelin does in terms of how it works with the actual platforms itself. Jamie gave that great report on that. And watching this, actually, there's 2 different classes, but we're seeing just how deep in the brake zone the GT Daytona cars can go, and I think that just caught Christensen out a little bit.
Yeah, it really did. And You've got to be careful. We saw last year 2 Porsches run into each other, 2 sister cars. You certainly don't want to do it here when you're in contention for a win, even if it is a different class.
And speaking of the other class, here is Marco Seefried in the number 44 Magnus machine as he continues to lead. One quick thing on the 85 JDC Miller Motorsports car, and I mentioned they're from Minnesota. When I was living up there, I was watching while I was starting to go to races and club races and the like, watching John Church and that team build their way up and start in small bore formula stuff. Great to see the success that they are having here, and if they do hang on and make this one happen, it will be truly well earned. So just a good shout out to some good friends up there in the Northland as we are watching what is unfolding here. Again 2 different classes running. This case, it is cars from the same class, and this is the battle for second right now as Jesse Krohn has looks like he had that second spot, and the Aussie V8 supercar gun Shane Van Gisbergen has gone around in the WeatherTech machine.
Yeah, he is a flying machine. Shane Van Gisbergen, the Kiwi who runs in the Aussie V8 series. I think this is maybe his 3rd 24-hour race now here at Daytona, and just got a great pace. He's one of those guys who just wrings the car's neck and will give it 1,000,000% every time he jumps in. Very quiet, unassuming guy, but boy, oh boy, behind the wheel, something else.
He is indeed, and he is not too far away. That class leader right in front of him. And work continues on the number 911 Porsche 911 RSR as Pippo Durrani continues to lead overall. Right after we went to break here at the Rolex 24 at Daytona, the troubled number 73 Park Place Porsche slowed on the track, wanted to get back into their pit area, and the problem is negotiating this crowd on the infield of this track here. Watch the RV coming right at him. That Porsche is good, but it's going to lose that war. Smart move. And now we understand why Brian Till and the guys have occasionally, when they've had to get down to the front straight, have been running a little late, just trying to negotiate the crowd here, Cal.
Yeah, it's massive and a real traffic jam, as you can see. Now he's coming back through the fan zone. He's essentially on the back side.
Treat for the fans here, right here, isn't it?
Sign an autograph.
This is taking the fan experience concept here to a new height, if you will. Wow. But obviously, I think what he did, he didn't want to just sit out there on the track, maybe 1, cause a yellow, and 2, not be able to get the car back here in a timely fashion. So decided to try and do it on his own and bring it in. That was Pat Lindsay trying to get the job done as we go back to now on-track racing coverage at this point. And again, that is the Magnus number 44. That is the Alex Job WeatherTech 22 Porsche. And then the number 97 Turner Motorsport BMW. That's 1, 2, 3 in the GT Daytona category. 4th is the number 23. And that car is a whopping 5 seconds back.
Yeah, this is really blown out, Greg. It's all over, right? Turn the TV's off. Class is done.
Boy, this is the S&P Racing Ferrari 488 GTE in the GT Le Mans category.
What a lineup.
Phenomenal driver.
Jimmy Bruni, recognized one of the all-time greats in GT racing. James Collado now making the move from single-seaters, a winner in GP2, was a Lotus test driver, and he's now made his move as to a Ferrari GT driver. Bertolini and Shatar won the GTE-AM class in the World Endurance Championship last year, but right now, that doesn't matter because they're having some few issues with that Ferrari.
Yeah, back and front at this point. Let's check in with Jamie.
Well, the car came down pit lane, blowing a lot of smoke. They did bring the car in. The crew actually dove into the back of the car, fired it back up, still more smoke, so they're going to take it back to the garage. This car is being run by AF Corsa crew members, so very familiar with the way these Ferraris are built. Hopefully they don't lose too much more time back in the garages. Justin?
Yeah, I'm here in the 911 into the pits, but you can see into the paddock here, you can see the oil on the rear under tray there. They put the car up on the high jacks. It's amazing to me because, you know, these cars are so sculpted, so beautiful, so well aerodynamically designed, and then the bodywork comes off, and we're getting a rare insight there into seeing see how low that engine is mounted in the rear, and it actually is a drive shaft They said on the left side, Nick Tandy, when he walked in, looked at me, and I think it was in his best British, he said, "Oh, golly darn left drive shaft," or something like that, Calvin. But a shorter version. And the Porsche mechanics are under there. Obviously, it's so tightly packaged. There are unusual engineering demands, and it's probably not quite so accessible as it is on some other cars. But these guys, they were just like a stormtrooper out there, as we know, and this was not part of the Porsche plan, but they'll execute as fast as they can, I'm sure, to get it back out on track. But huge disappointment here. The drivers, they've had such a strong run. Everybody has pushed so hard the whole way through last season, and they're used to success, aren't they? So this will be a setback.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, their goal is to win. So when you get this hiccup and dealing with the unknown, it's obviously a major blow.
And here is a change for the lead in GT Daytona. As you said it, Shane Van Gisbergen flying and just flew by that number 44 Magnus Audi. And that now has put him into the lead over Marco Seefried. And the two of them have opened it up just a little bit back now to the 97 BMW of Jesse Krohn. But this may not be a big Aussie V8, but Shane is able to get around the wheel of this car and is as it absolutely hooked up.
Yeah, I don't think it matters what he's driving, whether it's a Renault car or a race car. He's going to drive the wheels off it. So it's going to be a great battle to see how these GTD class plays out. All of the GT3 machinery, as we mentioned in the open, is exciting. The cars are sexy. These are the supercars that you see on the street. Everyone would love to own one and have it in the driveway. These are the ones that the kids love to see, and have posters on the walls. And it's really going to revolutionize the WeatherTech Championship this year in the GTD category.
I think an absolute race trim here. I think it may have surprised not just some of the GTLM teams, but also some of the officials perhaps, at just how effective these cars are. They did give the GT Le Mans cars some extra aero and the like to try and get that little bit of a performance gap opened up. But from straight line into a braking zone's pretty even.
Yep, absolutely. And what they'd like to see is kind of a 3% performance split between the various classes. But, every racetrack is different, and certainly dealing with the unknown in terms of how these cars will perform in race conditions is something they're going to go away, analyze, and tweak a little bit from here. But I think they've done it. It's an amazing task when you look at how many brands are represented in the championship now, and different categories to come out here in the season opener and have a very competitive field. And pretty even. I mean, obviously Christian Fittipaldi said that car, the P2 machine in the lead category, has a bit of an edge right now, so that may need to be adjusted moving down the road, but even so, still a great job by the series.
Oh, absolutely. And of course, then you've got that extra little difficulty of this track being so unique.
You can't overreact.
Yeah, exactly. That's the big thing, isn't it?
You go to Sebring, you go to Long Beach, totally different kettle of fish.
Yeah, absolutely. And, one of the things that we haven't talked a lot about here, and I think this might be a good time, we've alluded to it, that Bosch scrutineering data system that is dedicated to the IMSA tech, and the teams, the manufacturers, that's not their data. They can't access it. And all the teams have said it's added some expense, but it's absolutely crucial because of the investment we're making with our programs. We need to know that things are transparent and are as equal as possible.
It's outstanding. I mean, they have really upped the game in terms of being able to do this data analysis, and the manufacturers are respecting it. They get it, and it's just going to make the series go from strength to strength.
Yeah, every one of the manufacturer reps that I've talked to has said it added cost, and we're all for it because we need it right now. And it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out, as will be the last 5 hours, which we are now officially into here at the Rolex 24 at Daytona. Great view from the high camera here at the 2016 Rolex 24 at Daytona, the opening round of the WeatherTech SportsCar Championship for IMSA, the International Motorsports Association. And it has been a year of change and growth and development on so many levels. certainly for the facility with Daytona Rising, for the series with the developments in all the classes, and certainly in GT Daytona with the explosion that has resulted from adopting the full FIA GT3 rule book for the cars, and the racing has been absolutely superb. And right now we are having a look here. That's the number 23, the second car in your frame, and that now in the hands of Ian James. That's that Team Seattle entry. And Cal, we continue to see that car just looking a bit loose as he's being hounded by the 98 of Matthias Lauda right now. And you picked it up. There's a little bit of damage to the back of that car, and it looks to be a handful, but the drivers in this car are certainly capable, and they are really hanging on to it.
Yeah, they are. You can see the tie straps now that has been done since we last had a look at the back end of the 23 machine, trying to hold that rear under tray up. It does create some downforce there. So Wolf Hensler went wide in turn one a little bit earlier in the race a couple hours ago this morning. Ian James now trying to hang on to that 4 spots. Matthias Lauda in the number 98 Northwest Aston Martin Racing machine is starting to close in on him there.
Up onto the banking, and there is the number 62, the Risi Competizione car that not that long ago was very much in the hunt here, and then Jamie suddenly has lost a few laps.
Yeah, they had to go back to the garage, Greg. Reason being that the diffuser on the front of that car actually broke off. Because these cars are so new, we covered the fact that the 62 machine just arrived here at Daytona via Miami from Italy. So they don't have any spares here either. They didn't have another diffuser to put on that car. So it's running without it. In order to compensate for that lack of downforce on the front, they actually raised the rear wing a little bit. So this car is not running up to where they would like it to be running at the moment.
That's a shame, because as I said, when I got done last night, I went and just watched over at the bus stop for a little bit, and of all the cars, as impressive as they all were, this car in particular going into and the mid-corner speed through that bus stop down there was just stunning. And obviously then when you have that damage that Jamie was talking about, Cal, it just upsets the entire balance of the car, doesn't it?
Oh, for sure. I mean, so much downforce is created, and more importantly, the balance of the race car changes. So it's still a tremendous performance to have the car arrive late, as Jamie mentioned. Just flew it straight into Florida this week and tear the car down midweek, get it ready for an endurance run. Still a great performance by the whole team, led by Beaky Sims, and of course Rick Mayer, their excellent engineer, and Giuseppe Risi is just the team principal there, and a wonderful guy. So we want to see him do well this year, and I think the car's showing great pace and potential for the championship. Changing the driver lineup this year, Pierre Caffer is no longer going to be with them. He's going to be in the Audi camp for the year. So they brought over Tony Vilander, who campaigned the World Endurance Championship last year alongside Jimmy Bruni. And I think Tony's going to be based down in Miami, so he's going to be U.S. based, and that's going to be really beneficial to the team now. They said when we want to do a shakedown run or anything, we always had to bring the guys in from overseas. Having one of their drivers based in the U.S., I think, will be a bonus for that team moving forward.
Absolutely, and it's interesting. Rick Mayer, he's just a fount of information, and he's willing to tell you stuff, and it's really great. And one of the things he said was one of the nuances that's unique to this track because of the time spent on the banking. He said you have to compromise everything because you actually have to run with higher air pressures in the car and higher spring rates because of the compression on the banking. And he said then you've got to adjust everything else through it. It's just one of the challenges at this track.
It is, and it's a new car, so you can still look at your notebook and see what did we do to normal on a normal road course, what do we have to adjust in terms of the delta, the difference between the setups, and try and guesstimate what to start the week with. He was here at the test. He got some information from the Scuderia Corsa team from SMP Racing, who were here running the 4AA at the Raw test 3 weeks ago. So he didn't come in here totally blind, but until you put it on your own car and get your feedback from your own drivers, you're never really quite sure.
Team that had a little bit less to have to juggle in terms of development and have a pretty good data book around this place. Corvette Racing currently 1-2 right now. Milner in the number 4. And we're watching Mike Rockefeller in the number 3. It's about 7 seconds adrift of Milner right now. And then the number 25 and the number 5 is in running at the time. Philippe Albuquerque had that car in the 4th spot and makes the move down to pit lane. Good stop, back out.
And of course, one of the big storylines coming in here was Scott Pruitt. Can he get his 6th overall win and break the record with Hurley Hayward? Well, he's part of that driver lineup, don't forget, in the number 5, and they're very much in the mix still.
They are indeed, and looking forward to whenever Scott gets in the car here as we go back to this phenomenal battle as it's shaping up now for 4th in GT Daytona. And Ian James in that Team Seattle Alex Job car, the 23, hanging on. But we have seen Matthias Lauda already here, Cal, in that number 98 Aston Martin Racing Vantage be very aggressive, just throw that car around, really go after it. And this battle, I think, is going to be a fun one here for a bit.
Yeah, I think the Aston is pretty much a healthy car. Obviously, Ian James dealing with some issues with the rear floor tray there, so that may be affecting his outright pace, but he's just trying to keep it clean. I'd imagine it'll be Wolfie possibly finish this thing off here today, or maybe one of the regular season drivers in terms of Mario Farnbacher. Alex Riberas has got great speed and potential as well to bring this thing home for a victory.
Now, just watching here, seeing Matthias go up high, you know, obviously when you've got cars of relatively equal performance, you'd think, well, that's the longer way around, and is that going to cost you some time? Is he maybe doing that because he wants to make sure he's getting some good air into the radiators of that car if he's been following close?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we don't have extreme temperatures here today. We're just starting to warm things up after an overnight low. About 51 degrees ambient, I think it got down to as the lowest point of the evening and early morning. So it depends how much tape. I mean, obviously, they shouldn't be having overheating issues at this ambient temperature and track temperature. But if you got a bit more tape on the rad, that could be a possibility. Don't really see anything there from a distance. So I think he's just feeling him out, just seeing where the car works, where he can pick up some RPM and a little bit more speed.
And as we're talking about this number 23 Team Seattle Alex Job Racing Porsche, Alex Job Racing, Justin, one of the most accomplished teams in sports car racing, period.
Certainly so, and with experience that Alex, you just said, since the 70s, really, when you first came here, it has been a roller coaster ride, hasn't it? Yet, in the end, the track is the same, even if the passenger car changes.
Yeah, it's been a real up and down roller coaster ride the whole race. The competition in the GTD category is just incredible. When you see how many cars are still on the lead lap and how the positions, the top 3 positions, change through the pit stop cycles, it's going to be one heck of a fight to the end of the race.
And of course, it's great seeing the WeatherTech 22 is really running very strongly. You got David in the car earlier. How was that as team manager, also having to tell the guy that writes the checks, you know, be smart, don't make a mistake? What was that conversation like?
Yeah, David did the right job. He didn't go for speed, and you know, we fell back a little bit because of that, but you know, he did a full stint, no incidents, no penalties, no damage, did exactly what he needed to do, and then through some good strategy and some luck, we've been able to get it back in the lead.
Yeah, you could say that he did as good a job, if not better, than some of the gold and platinum drivers that make mistakes out there, so it must be good team stewardship. Alex Job, one of the true gentlemen of the pit lane, of course, one of the most experienced guys.
Without doubt, and actually not just one of the true gentlemen, but now a Sebring Hall of Fame class inductee here in 2016, along with names like Mr. Lamont, Tom Christensen, Sam Posey, Dick Smothers, Trey Stevenson, who of course was the GM there for so many years, and Tom McEwen. And the reason, let's just talk about a couple of things here. That team has a couple of wins here at the Rolex 24, a couple of wins in class at Le Mans, and they've had 70 wins since 95 and 48 pole positions. Amazing what they've done. 5 championships, 2002, 3 and 4 in 2012 and 2013. But the reason they're in the Sebring Hall of Fame, they got their 10th class win at Sebring. That is stunning.
It really is, and it's Alex Job Racing, and I know that Alex believes that a lot of their success is due to the support of his wife, Holly. She's been going through some medical issues, so everyone here in the paddock, Holly, wishes you the best, and you know, let's get back on the road to recovery. We want to see you back in our paddock soon.
Absolutely, absolutely, definitely miss. So that car continues to lead up front right now, and as we are heading now inside of 5 hours, 4:45 to go, and ooh, that's a high-end, huge Jenga game collapsing. Hope that doesn't happen to any of our teams here. Welcome back to the Rolex 24 at Daytona, and we are watching our class leader right now. That is Pippo Durrani in the number 2 Extreme Speed Motorsports Ligier Honda, and he has opened up a margin here, and we heard from Christian Fittipaldi earlier. He said there was no sense fighting him. he's going to leave me, and he has now to the tune of some 25 seconds. He leads over Max Angelelli at this stage. Ryan Dial in the number 90 sits third, but Pippo and this car certainly seem as one right now.
Yeah, they certainly do. He's been very impressive. Got into that heated battle with Christian Fittipaldi early in the stint, has really just taken off to the tune of 25 seconds. So he certainly seems to be their sharpest tool in terms of getting the speed out of this race car, and I'll be very surprised if he's not going to try and finish this thing off this afternoon.
I wouldn't put anybody else in, just the way that he's been running here to get to the end. And if they do hang on, I think, we've been talking about some of the history that could be made here this weekend. I believe that would be the first ever overall win for a Honda Power car here. So some good things unfolding there as well. And there is our leader in the Prototype Challenge category. Expecting him in relatively soon, Chris Miller, and it is JDC Miller Motorsports. So he's very involved in the team as well as behind the wheel, this Minnesota-based team. And, they came really close. It was at Lime Rock last year when they had a great strategy and had Steven Simpson build up a huge lead and then just had a couple of moments. But this one now, that margin, it was 20. We hear Jamie mentioned it was 20 laps, then it was down to 10 laps. And now what is it? Some 7 laps. So it's getting a little bit more urgent for them, isn't it?
Yeah, those issues can really eat up a lot of that advantage that you have, and the class has been not normal this year in terms of a lot of the quick cars have had trouble. The championship car, of course, from Core Autosport were leading this race when Mark Wilkins brought the car to pit lane with a blown motor, and so they were out. The 52 cars had a few issues, but still sits in the second spot, some 6-7 laps down depending on the pit cycle, but they're going to be a factor. This is the thing as we saw last year, went right down to the final 20 minutes when the 52 car did get the victory after the fire with the 54 machine.
Absolutely. Looking at GT Le Mans, it is the number 4 Corvette from Corvette Racing, the C7R of Tommy Milner, as he holds the lead right now and has about 5 seconds in hand over teammate Mike Rockefeller. And then the leader in the GTD category just moments ago, the number 22 WeatherTech Porsche. You see a list of the drivers in that car, and it's Shane Van Gisbergen right now behind the wheel, but they've ducked into the pits, and that's going to change the lead order here as our overall leader, Cal, makes the move in.
Yeah, he does, and I think this is going to be a 27-lap stint for Durrani. Jamie's going to be waiting for him. I believe he'll stay in, Jamie, for another stint, and I think Johannes will probably do a middle stint here in this final 6 hours. Now 4.5 to go, but there was 6 hours to go, I think, when Durrani got in.
Jamie? They're actually going to go ahead and do a driver change now, so Johannes Van Overbeek will get behind the wheel. Hopefully we can get a word with Pippo. I imagine that he will be finishing this race, so Johannes is planning on being in the car for a little bit before they put Durrani back in. 4 new Continental tires also going on this machine. One interesting thing, looking at their windscreens, is they have 4 clean ones still on there, so this team has been very strategic with using those. The window on the front windshield on these things are so small, so as clean as they can have it. It's really, really important for these drivers as we get into the heat of the battle at the end. Very clean pit stop for ESM.
It was a clean pit stop. Now we're looking at the 10 car, and just to get into that drive time regulation, a driver can do no more than 14 hours maximum, and problem for the 10 car last year was that Jordan Taylor exceeded more than 4 hours out of any 6. So certainly the ESM crew needs to be on top of that, the way they rotate Durrani in and out here over these final 6 hours of this race, that they don't run afoul of the same issue.
That's a very good point. So that might be part of one of the reasons they did to change the other, was maybe to let him get a little bit rehabbed and physioed before he comes back in, if he has to really fight for this one, huh?
Yeah, maybe they want to get him out, give Johannes an extra stint over and above what they had initially anticipated, so that he doesn't run afoul of the drive time reg.
And with that stop by the number 22, now this is the car that has moved back into the lead. It's been there a few times. The number 44 Magnus Racing Audi, Marco Seefried, currently behind the wheel. And that car leads right now over the 97 Turner BMW. That's right there. It is nothing right now between those two cars, and then a bit of a gap, about 10 seconds back to Ian James. So this battle right now is a fierce one with absolutely, what, a car's length basically separating these two.
Yeah, this is awesome. A great performance by Jesse Krohn and by BMW and by Turner Motorsports, campaigning this number 97 yellow and blue machine, the familiar Turner Motorsport colors. GTD champions back in 2014, had a race win last year at Lime Rock. And they got this new machine, this new beast, this new M6, and it's showing extremely well here on its debut.
And just part of the magic that is GT Daytona. So I'm going to get that one right here. It's pretty special. And speaking of special and magic, let's get down to Jamie with Pippo.
Pippo, fantastic drives that you've put on today. You said coming into this race that you felt like you were going to be a better driver after competing here. What have you learned so far?
Well, I think the experience to be here around this amazing track and driving against drivers like, you know, superstars here in America make me push more, make me work harder to achieve what I want. And definitely racing against them makes me a better driver. So yeah, I'm really happy. Still a long time to go. Fingers crossed that we can keep this pace until the end of the race.
Johannes is behind the wheel right now. What condition is the car in compared to when you started the race?
The car seems pretty well. It's been great since the beginning of the race. The guys from Tequila, Patrón, ESM, they did a fantastic job putting this car together. So we're looking forward for the last few hours. It's been a long day, but wow, what amazing experience is to be here.
We saw that pass you made on the 5 in the bus stop. Talk us through it in your seat.
What pass, sorry?
Around the 5, the Action Express car.
Yeah, that was a nice fight. It was a little bit tough. He didn't want to let me go, but I had to find my way through. But yeah, that's racing. It's really nice, and in the end of the day, it was clean. So that's how racing should be, hard but clean.
Another moment that you had with 4 wheels off going in. Another moment you had with 4 wheels off going into NASCAR in turn 1. What were your thoughts as you sat behind the wheel?
Sorry, NASCAR turn 1, what happened?
When you had 4 wheels off.
Yeah, I mean, I went inside and I had to go to the grass to avoid the GTD car. I thought I had the pass down there, but you know, the GTD guy was right in the middle. He didn't know where to go. He came to the right side, so I had to back off and make the pass later. But yeah, it was nice move.
I know you need to get some rest, but guys, take a good look at this. This is what youth looks like. He just put on that clinic behind the wheel of the car, not even a drop of sweat on his forehead.
I know, it's amazing. That fresh a face with that level of pace, this guy's got a future, no question about it. And Johannes van Overbeek now behind the wheel, leading here at Daytona. We will be right back.
For us, everything we talk about when we say Daytona, we say big and bold. And I have to tell you, I think we blew that out of the water with the new project. Everything is big and bold, and the reaction from our fans, from the sponsors, from the drivers, wow.
It's unbelievable what they've done. It's such a cool facility, and there's really no other place like it.
I mean, everything's just so much bigger. The addition of so many elevators and escalators and just concession and this and that, and it's very cool.
I mean, you know, 200 some odd thousand people can sit in all those seats. I mean, it's unbelievable.
60 million pounds of concrete, 1% of the annual output of U.S. steel is in this project, and then you think about the 100,000 new seats, concourses that stretch 9/10 of a mile long. This is truly a modern marvel.
Well, folks, as you take a look at some of the stats here about the project that has been Daytona Rising, we are delighted to have the president of Daytona International Speedway with us, Joey Chitwood. And Joey, we heard from you obviously a bit in that feature and some remarkable stats. The one that I want to hit first is you guys with this project pretty much monopolized a large part of the U.S. steel industry. I mean, that stat alone is pretty impressive.
You know, it's hard to believe when you think about a racetrack. We've been around a long time, but when you start throwing those numbers out, grandstands that are 9/10 of a mile long, 31 million pounds of steel, it truly was a modern marvel. I think about some of the interaction we have with our contractors and vendors, and they were thinking in a smaller kind of world, maybe a stick and ball world, a football stadium, which is 100 yards long. Well, we can fit 15 of those inside this place. And so just the size of the signs, the size of everything, you know, Big and Bold wasn't just the brand. It was everything that went into the project just to build it, the 2.5 years to do it, but also, how about the fact that we kept operating the venue while we were building it over 2.5 years? We did not postpone a Rolex 24 Daytona or a Daytona 500 or a Coke 0400 over the summertime. That was probably the biggest challenge of all, keep running racing while we're constructing the new venue. Lots of planning, I know, Joey, to execute and get the building done. But now you're running a big event. What have you learned here this weekend, mate?
Yesterday was a long day. We've got a good list for Monday, some growing pains along the way. And really for our team, this is the first time we've operated some parts of the venue. And so we're going to learn some things. And where we park, credentials, this door, the elevator, why didn't that work? So we've got a really good list. But candidly, I still feel like we really knocked it out of the park. We were going to have these things happen. And I think we in the event mode know that. As perfect a plan you might have, things will go wrong. It's the test of our character and how we respond, and the team did a great job yesterday. But again, we've got a good list for Monday. We'll prioritize, get ready for the next events. But so far, I think everybody's really paying attention to the action on the track, because this race has been fantastic from the green flag till now.
Oh, no question about that. Watching some of the pit stops for GT Le Mans front runners. You know, one of the things that, you know, to talk about here, aside from the construction aspects, when we had the tour, one of the things that you touched on was the rethink in terms of simple scale about vendors that you had to have here, because of how much you were blowing up the opportunity for people to be able to have more convenient, you know, souvenirs, concessions, and of course the suites.
It truly takes an army to operate this venue. When you think about it, we're a building now. Before we were a grandstand on ground level. Now with concourses and structures and you name it. I mean, we've got more contractors, vendors, guest services, you name it. We are truly overstaffed to make sure this first year we do it quite right. But I will tell you, just the look and the feel of everything, the response from the France family's been fantastic. Our fans last night, great. A ton of fans in the concourses and in the stands for the start of the race, and really well into the evening time. And typically our event's been infield focused. So now this stadium pulls you outside, and the sight lines from up top are fantastic. So really for us, I think we're hitting it on all levels, but we can get better. That's the key. We've got to get better every time we operate the venue.
The ribbon cutting here just a couple of days ago. Significant moment, I'm sure. And big applause. Joey, you got 1,400 television screens around this place. When Greg and I got off, we had a bit of time on our hands. So you now have 1,398, mate. So I just want to let you know.
Yeah, I understood. You know, one of the keys is we're going to learn some things. Maybe people like those TVs a lot. They take them with them. But hey, you know, at the end of the day, just proud of the team. 2.5 years. And when you saw that ribbon cutting with Lisa and Jim, their support from day one has been phenomenal. And you think about what this brand means to them. Their father, their grandfather built this property. And I'm just honored that they allowed the Daytona team to kind of take on that challenge to walk in the footsteps of Big Bill with that legacy. And I think we've lived up to it. I think we've done something that no one else, I think, on the planet will do. We created the world's first and only motorsports stadium, and that was the true reimagining of this icon. And I think this property deserved it, and I think we're going to continue to get better and better. But again, I love seeing the athletes comment. When those drivers talk about how impressive it is to them, I think that's when we really nailed it, because the athletes mean so much in our sport, and our fans really, when an athlete says something, our fans are right there behind them. So to hear those great comments, I hadn't seen those yet, that makes me feel really good, and hopefully our team is proud of that. Again, first event, the Rolex 24 in history. This is our first event in the new stadium, a claim to fame for all those competitors out there this morning.
I have to tell you, when you were talking about continuing to operate, I had the pleasure of being here announcing, doing the webcast for the runoffs, which unfolded here. A huge entry, obviously, while this construction was going on. And it did produce, I have to say, one of the most interesting corner calls that we have ever heard, as we were watching this race unfold, and the cars went by, and the back grandstand had obviously been eliminated, but the elevator shaft was still there. The next lap, there was smoke and no elevator shaft. And I think it was the Station 6 crew said, Control, should we be concerned that the elevator tower in the backstreet just blew up? Well, I mean, you guys have been after it for 2.5 years to make this timeline.
I hope it wasn't someone's braking marker.
Yeah, not exactly. At all. We wanted to give our fans and the competitors a little something to be excited about. So we had fireworks last night for the Rolex 24. So for the SCCA, well, let's kind of knock down that tower while they're running out there and have a little fun with it. But literally, we didn't let anything get in the way of construction. We had a tight timeline, 2.5 years. You know, in terms of this corporation and what was expected, on schedule and on budget. Those were the two key items, and I'm proud to tell you that we satisfied it and had some fun along the way, whether it was deconstructing some towers, blowing some things up. When this tower was taken down, it was amazing to see that in terms of the big lift that they use, and kind of see something iconic that Daytona is known for, and then within 2 weeks it was gone. and we're building the new tower. And I think the new one looks fantastic. The marquee sign on the front of the property, each letter's 13'6", Daytona International Speedway backlit with 3,600 LED lights. If you're on the east coast of Florida, you will see the Daytona International Speedway sign. And again, I think that's who we are. We want to be loud and proud, big and bold. And again, when you see these athletes, these drivers out on this track racing, just racing to their capacity, we want a venue that really matches up to that competition on the track. So whether it's this event, stock cars, motorcycles, it's going to be an exciting 2016 season.
Well, and Joey, from the suites to one of the most amazing chandeliers we've ever seen, to taking care of the hand dryers in the bathroom. You guys have thought it out. Here is the Speed Week schedule, and you can see so much unfolding here and happening right here at the world's first motorsports stadium, Daytona Rising. An amazing journey completed and ready for Speed Weeks. We'll be right back. Welcome back to our continuing coverage of the opening round of the 2016 WeatherTech SportsCar Championship, the Rolex 24 at Daytona. And up front overall, it is Johannes van Overbeek in the number 2 from Tequila, Patrón Extreme Speed Motorsports leading. Second is Max Angelelli. And the number 10, Konica Minolta Wayne Taylor Racing Machine. But running third right now is the number 5 Mustang Sampling Action Express Corvette DP. Philippe Albuquerque behind the wheel. But I see a man that is suited up and ready to get on board that car with Justin Bell in pit lane. A big story.
He is, but first of all, I think imagine how wealthy you would be, Scott Pruitt, if you could bottle your secret to looking young, fit, and healthy. You'd just be a billionaire.
You know, the good Lord's blessed me with this incredibly long career. Yeah, I started go-karts when I was 8 years old. I've raced every year since then. I can't even remember back that far. And how did my family at home? I do have family at home, by the way.
Oh, you do?
Yeah. And, you know, it's just been incredible. It's exciting to be in part of the Action Express team. And all these guys I've raced against all these years with Fittipaldi, and I mean, in the IndyCar days and sports car days and Joao and Philippe. And Philippe doing such a great job. A lot of cars going by. And Philippe's just doing a fabulous job.
So obviously, as we were just talking about before the interview, you're nicely positioned, the car's running strong, strategy you're starting to plan for towards the end of the race, but so is everyone else, right?
You know, this is the Rolex 24 is such an incredible race, and I'm telling you, you never know what's going to happen until you cross that checkered flag. I've been here numerous times, way in the lead and break and laps behind and win. So the guy's doing a great job. You know, we're confident that, you know, we can run a hard pace. We're not as fast as P2 car, which pretty disappointed in IMSA that, you know, there's so much differential. But it is what it is. So we're going to go, you know, give it the 110% and see if we can get to the checkered flag first.
He is the man that delivers 110%. I thought he was going to lead with, the good Lord's blessed me with this body, and I just didn't know how I was going to react to that. Jamie?
Well, another body that had been failing earlier in the week was Jordan Taylor. We covered the fact that he had that virus. Actually heard overnight that he maybe finished in this race, not getting back behind the wheel of the car, but he just tweeted this after his last stint. He said, "The driving a race car is the best medicine." I checked in with his dad. I didn't want to get too close to him myself, so I didn't actually talk to Jordan, but Wayne did tell me that Jordan felt so good after driving in that stint that he was actually going to get back behind the wheel of that Konica Minolta DP car before the end of this race. So good news coming from Wayne Taylor.
That's brilliant stuff, Jamie. And just getting back to Scott Pruitt, you know, the guys who have these amazing records, Greg, they do it because of their abilities, and then the big teams want them, but they also have a knack of being in the right team. And Scott had the opportunity to run again with Chip this year, and right now when you look at the scoreboard, at least with a few hours to go, it looks like he's made the right choice. I mean,
absolutely.
The 5 car is running very strong. So TK, Tom Christensen, was in here yesterday, 9-time winner at Le Mans. Obviously, most of that with Audi, but he won with other manufacturers as well. And he knew when to change and when to make those choices. And that goes hand in hand with the success.
I think that's right. And when you're that good, it gives you those options, doesn't it, where you can then make that choice. And he's done a great job in everything he's ever been in. I mean, back in the early Trans Am days, you know, he won. He gets in Indy cars. He wins, gets into sports cars at this level. IMSA, the original IMSA and GTO, wins championships. You know, he just delivers.
He does, and it's going to be great to see if they can pull this one off. But the car they've all got to chase down is that number 2.
Yeah.
Tequila Patrón entry. It's really stunning the pace that it's got here with that Honda Power this year, the 3.5-liter motor. But there's a lot of the established names really gunning after the Max Angelelli. He always runs well here at Daytona. He's going to be running the full NAEC program for Wayne Taylor again. He's really one of the family. He's been doing an amazing job. His pace here this weekend has been sensational. Just up to the young guns, Ricky and Jordan Taylor. They're all in the same time bracket there. Rubens did a great job last night when he did a few hours behind the wheel. Just a great addition to that team, and as you'd expect, a man of his caliber just got in and was immediately on it.
Absolutely. And getting back a little bit to what Jamie was talking about with Jordan saying being in the race cars is amazing tonic. I was fortunate to be announcing an IndyCar race in Vancouver back in the kart days, and Al Unser Jr. early in the week got a bad case of food poisoning, and on the Friday he came out, he managed like 5 laps in the car and went right into the medical center, was getting IVs for fluid back in the hotel. He showed up, he ran I think another 5 laps in qualifying, 12th, when he was a front runner in that, went back, got in the car, ended up winning the race. And in Victory Circle, he got up there, and his comment in that wonderful accent was, you know, adrenaline is absolutely amazing. And I think that's what Jordan's experiencing here. You get in the car and everything else kind of fades, doesn't it?
It does when you're running well.
Hey, well, good point.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you just got that goal in front of you. If you have some problems, you're a few laps down as a whole, then you start thinking about the body and all of the things that have gone wrong over the last few weeks. But right now, when you're in contention for a victory and you're on that lead lap and in that lead battle, that is the incentive, and the adrenaline rush is huge.
You know, we're watching Johannes van Overbeek here. We've talked about this on and off over the course of the last few years. This is a guy who started off and drove only tin-top sports cars and the like. And when he got the opportunity, when this team made that last-minute decision to switch to the P2 car to get a jump on things, I was stunned and impressed with how quickly he has developed the understanding of aerodynamics and prototype racing. And that drive he put on from pole a couple of years ago at Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca, that was the one where you went, wow, this guy's for real.
He is for real. He did that transition, and some people can do it easily and other people can't, and he did it very easily. And he's a great mentor for Ed Brown. They co-drive together on a regular basis. He's a gentleman, and he's really quick behind the wheel at the same time.
And again, this battle certainly in the overall is going to be fascinating. In the prototype challenge class right now, it is still this car, the number 85 from JDC Miller Motorsports. Chris Miller doing a long few stints in this car. And that margin that they had, it's shrinking just a little bit here. It has come down now to 6 laps from 20 that they had. They've had a couple of glitches, but they're still leading. In GT Le Mans, you know, guess what? It continues to be the number 4 Corvette, now in the hands of the ultra-quick Marcel Fessler, who will be running with his team for the endurance races. Rockenfeller, his teammate, in the number 3, sits second, and Dirk Werner in the 25 BMW from BMW Rahal Letterman. Oh, and a moment right in front. That is the 02, the defending race champion car in the Stevenson Motorsports Audi. It was down in that tricky International Horseshoe. And it looks like it was
Tony Kanaan behind the wheel of the 02.
Just a light touch, apparently.
Matt Bell behind the wheel of the 6 machine. Stevenson going to be campaigning 2 of these Audis on a full-time basis.
And looks like, as we said, it wasn't any kind of a hard contact. They both able to get going again. See if we can see anything significant here, Cal.
Tony's in there pretty deep. It's pretty late in that corner to try and tuck it to the inside. So from that late snapshot, I'd have to put the onus on Tony's shoulders there, but hard to say with the dynamics seeing it so late.
And let's take a look at GT Daytona. It is still the WeatherTech Alex Job Racing Porsche. Shane Van Gisbergen continues to lead over the 44 Magnus Racing Audi. Marco Seefried in the 97 Turner Motorsport BMW of Marcus Paltala behind the wheel of that car right now. And of course, the challenges of multi-class racing continue here. Boy, has this been a lead change?
I think it is. Max Angelelli has got around Johannes van Overbeek, so that is a big surprise, a pass for the lead. We talked about the pace of the 2 car. Well, Max said, guess what? I may be not here on a regular basis. Let's see if traffic played a part. I think Johannes was just being patient there, and Max saw the opening and went for it.
Yeah, you saw Johannes start to turn in, and then he had to open the wheel up, didn't he? Wasn't quite expecting that move. And, you know, there's nobody, I think, more decisive and aggressive in traffic than Max Angelelli.
They call him Max the Axe for a reason.
No question about that. So, again, as we are now coming up on about 4 hours and 10 minutes remaining here at the Rolex 24 at Daytona, as Johannes van Overbeek has the overall lead at the 20. Well, it's changed that up now as Max Angelelli has just taken that overall lead here at the 26 IMSA WeatherTech Series opener, the Rolex 24. We're going to need to break away for a little while from our coverage here on FS1. By the way, coming up next on FS1 is FA Cup match day, followed by the MK Dons Chelsea FA Cup match. We are headed to FS2 until the end of that match. We'll be back on FS1 at 1 p.m. Eastern until the conclusion. And of course, you can see everything, including onboard cameras, on the Fox Sports Go app. So stick around for soccer on FS1, or please come and join us on FS2 right now for our ongoing coverage of the 2016 Rolex 24 at Daytona in the Motorsports Stadium that is Daytona Rising. Hello, everybody, and welcome to our ongoing coverage of the WeatherTech SportsCar Championship season opener, the Rolex 24 at Daytona here on FS2. Hopefully you've been following with us on FS1. If not, welcome to our coverage. We have a race that is unfolding that is going to be extraordinaire. Stay with us and enjoy. We've got a treat for you right now.
Daytona and Indianapolis, the two American cities whose identity is wrapped up in racing. Here at Daytona, it began with the machines designed to take the world land speed record. The cars running on the hard-packed sand with the Atlantic in the background. But in 1958, action moved inland to the magnificence of the Daytona International Speedway. It was a track designed for speed, with 31-degree banks that overnight became the track's signature. The first 24-hour race was held in 1966, creating what is informally known as the Triple Crown of endurance racing: Daytona, Sebring, Le Mans.
The history at this facility reaches so very deep, from those early days on the beach and then the vision to create this speedway in the ongoing division. Great to have you with us here, and obviously we are going to be making a bit of a change in just a little bit, but right now Justin Bell, Jamie Howe down in pit lane along with me, Greg Kramer, and Calvin Fish here. And Cal, I tell you, we're now coming up on 4 hours remaining in this one. That's getting down to getting with it time. Usually, what, 2 to 4 hours, but certainly that last 2. But right now, you've got to think some of these strategists are just really pulling their hair out trying to figure out what's going to happen at the end here. And if you're just joining us, for a while it was Johannes van Overbeek who had taken over from the ultra-quick Pippo Durrani, and Johannes is still running very fast laps, but Max Angelelli in that Koenigsegg Minolta Wayne Taylor Racing Corvette DP has, as you might expect, found some speed and made a great move for that lead right here, Cal.
Well, he literally pounced here. This is going down into turn 5. You see some traffic up ahead, and I think Johannes was just thinking about setting him up on the exit of the corner. He opened the door there, and Max just sliced it down the inside, has taken the lead of this motor race. And here we see Johannes coming back at him. That P2 machine certainly seems to have a little bit more speed. Honda power, 3.5 liter, turbocharged, going up against the normally aspirated Chevy, powering the number 10 machine, and Axe has given it all he's got right now. So this is going to be a battle to the wire here. And yes, we've had a long, continuous green flag run here. And you talk about back timing the event, Greg. Certainly you've got to be careful. We saw Pippo Durrani in. They got him out a little bit before I expect, and I think they're certainly on top of that. No more than 4 hours driving in a 6-hour period. I believe Durrani will finish the game off for the number 2 machine today, and they've got to be careful with that.
Well, and you know that Wayne Taylor group has definitely got that drive time thing covered this year.
Safety nets in place, software. They got 3 guys supposedly looking at that to make sure they don't run afoul. That cost them big last year. That cost them the opportunity of the win. I think the 02 car was always going to win on that day, but it was going to be very tight. But in terms of the championship, they got last place points.
Yep.
That was about a 15-point swing, and they weren't that far out of the championship win at the end of the year. It was a big day for those guys.
Well, I mean, they pitted from second to do the change. When they went back out, they were third on track, but then they still didn't get it done right. So as you said, got last place points. So it is just that crucial, and it's going to be interesting in the battle when these 2 guys are not in traffic. You're watching just the general performance of this Honda Ligier machine. And what we've been watching all race long so far, this Wayne Taylor crew has got this car absolutely hooked up on the brakes.
Oh, they do. They're really deep on the brakes. I noticed, however, when the 10 and the 5 car are running against one another, the 5 car, I'm not sure, is running a little bit less downforce. It seemed to have a little bit more straightaway speed. So that really eliminated any opportunity that Jordan Taylor at the time had to put a move on Christian Fittipaldi. So I think if they end up in a shootout, I think the 5 car has certainly the straightaway speed. The 10 car has the braking ability, but maybe that comes down to the downforce they're running. More downforce, more drag down the straightaway, but more braking ability into the corners.
And you're having a look here as we watch those 2 leaders working their way through the front runners in GT Daytona right now, as they are fighting their way through. And we've been talking about the performance from Wayne Taylor Racing. Chris Neville now joins us from pit lane, and along with their performance, this team also executes pit stops exceptionally well. Chris, they seem to be pretty well placed.
Yeah, they're in a great position right now, Greg, and you were talking about pit stops. I was looking at time on pit lane, and Wayne Taylor Racing has spent the least amount of time on pit lane during this race. But more importantly, Wayne, right now your car back out in the lead. As you're kind of sizing up that 2 car in the competition, what is Max telling you?
Well, basically what we've seen with that car throughout the 20 whatever hours we've been running, the young Italian guy seems to be able to make that car go a lot faster than the other guys, and so
that's Pippo Durrani.
Yeah, and we've managed to be able to stay ahead of the other guys. So what we're trying to do is we've asked Max if he can do another stint so we can shorten up the end of the race. You know, we still got Ricky and Jordan who did a lot of, well, Ricky did a lot of long stints early hours of the morning. And of course, we've given Jordan more time than we probably should have. So we're going to try and shorten up the end and then put Ricky and Jordan back in at the end.
Now, Pippo Durrani just got out of that 2 car a little while ago after a long stint. Have you been paying attention to how much he's been driving, and do you expect him to be back behind the wheel of the 2 car?
No, we never worry about time in the car. You know, we know how that works.
All right, well, good luck. We still have a ways to go.
Well, that we do, and you know, talking about time in the pits, one of the stats that really caught my eye, the number 3 Corvette, when they won here last year, they were 7 minutes less in the pits than anybody else in that class, and that's usually one of the rules of endurance racing. The less time in the pits, more likely you are to win it. And we'll see who plays that game the best. We're going to step out of the booth when we come back from a break. You'll have Brian Till, Tommy Kendall, and Matt Yoakum joining Chris Neville to take you on for the next few hours. See you in a while.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to continuing coverage of the WeatherTech SportsCar Championship, the Rolex 24 at Daytona. Brian Till and Tommy Kendall now up in the booth. Matt Yoakum, Chris Neville on pit lane, and we've got a full course caution. That will make the 20th full course caution of this event. Problem for the 67, the Ford GT just seems to have those teething problems that continue, Tommy.
It does, but there's plenty of reason for optimism. And look, just that car sitting still.
It's very fast sitting still,
buttresses, and it does look fast sitting still, although they don't want it to be that way. This is some debris that came off one of the Lamborghinis.
Look, it's the 28. You can see that tire rub. Yeah. And that right rear tire is not one that you want being punished because you're about to get through the horseshoes and up onto the banking.
Yeah, so I'm guessing someone got into the right rear of that car at some point and broke that. So now we're under caution. We had a pretty good run there, almost right around 2 hours of green flag running, which at this point really can threaten to break the pack apart, kind of like bike racing. If you have a little bit of a mishap, you hang on to the tail end of the lead lap if you don't get a yellow to get back bunched up. But so now with 3 of the 4 classes, we've got incredible races set up as we have 4 hours to go.
car that's been so impressive is the Patrón ESM. You see it right there, the Ligier, the number 2, Johannes van Overbeek behind the wheel, and they got to be feeling good down there, Chris.
They definitely are feeling good down here. The Tequila Patrón crew getting ready to do a pit stop here. Ed Brown watching his crew go at it. And Ed, obviously we got a great battle up here for the overall lead, but we've got some interesting things playing out. Drivers that are going to be getting behind the wheel. What do you expect your driver rotation to be in these last couple hours?
Probably just down to Johannes and Pipo. We're going to try to keep it limited on what we're going to do, but you know, things will change if somebody's not feeling good. But yeah, it's a great battle. It's been a great battle, you know, since the start of the race. I'm really proud of the team. We've come back some, you know, we had a stop and go with plus 60, and we had somebody had a little contact with us early, but you know, everybody's fighting, and it's this is going to be a great battle down to the end.
Yeah, the last couple of years we've seen some great late race restarts. We've got 2 different kinds of cars here: a Daytona prototype, a P2 car. How is that P2 car going to be if we have a late race restart, that fire off speed?
Well, you know, so far, you know, we've been pretty good on the restarts, but the GPs, they always usually have an advantage. But, you know, the new HPD engine that we're running here has just really been strong. And so we're looking forward to, I wish the time would keep on clicking off. It's taken a little too long for this race to get over, but no, hopefully it just stays smooth. Yeah, those Honda engines have been strong, but Mike Shank Racing, they had one fail during the night. Any concerns, anything you guys are watching? No, knock on my head, no, it's all been good.
Well, there you see the number 2, and yeah, we talked about Mike Shank having that engine failure, and Ed said he wished time would keep clicking off. I wish it had gone by a little bit faster, because you and I had a friendly wager when we left here last night who would be leading when we got back on air, and we got back about 3 minutes too soon because you had the 10, and right now the 10 is out in front. This is setting up to be an awesome finish here from Daytona. Make sure you stay with us. Don't miss it. Pit lane now open for prototype stops here during this full course caution. You saw the lead car of Max Angelelli come in. All the prototypes did. And this is going to change everybody's strategy just a little bit more, Matt.
And Mark Grusin is going to stay in the Visit Florida Corvette. He said the longer he ran into his stint with this car, actually the better the car got. No real adjustments on the 90. Chris.
Matt, no driver change on the 10 car. Max Angelelli staying behind the wheel, doing four tires and fuel. Angelelli already down and away. Johannes van Overbeek in the 2 car sitting here waiting for fuel. Tires are done on the 2 car, still waiting on fuel as the 10 car goes by. So the 10 car keeps the lead in pit lane.
Great stop by Wayne Taylor Racing crew, and there you see the 2 out behind the 10, and just a brief pause there at pit out, and the officials wave them on. And back to doing battle on the racetrack. And, you know, GT cars will be up next. You'll look through the GT field. Magnus Racing running second in category right now. And there's probably not a team out in that paddock that uses social media any better than Magnus Racing.
It's a new car. It's a new look. It's really a whole new Magnus when you piece it all together. 2016 for us is almost like a whole new world.
The thing about Magnus is you just never know what's going to happen next.
Yep.
Now, that is just a brief look. That is a social media piece that they did. You can find it on YouTube, but they do this stuff all the time. They always have movie posters that they take popular movies with and put the drivers' faces in.
Their newest edition came out. It always comes out at the Rolex. Yep. And Sean Heckman, the genius behind Media Barons, John Potter gives them kind of free reign, and they do their 24-hour webcast as well. I actually got a set of the Lego characters that they made up with helmets and so forth, and just genius stuff.
The whole piece is like 4+ minutes long.
I asked Sean, I said, oh, that had to have been an incredible amount of work. He says, no, it's just an app. You just type it in. I'm like, yeah, right.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Just search Magnus Racing 2016 on YouTube, and you can watch the whole video. It's just
Absolutely incredible. Talk about incredible. What you said it yesterday, Tommy. You said there were a lot of defections from manufacturers in GTD, and Magnus was one of those defections. They left Porsche, and obviously Porsche has a very good car this year, but that new Audi, very strong, and right now running in second in GT Daytona.
When I was looking at, all the driver lineups are stout, but a couple, that was one of the ones that stood out to me last year. Pretty much the same lineup. Also the 22 car, which has come to the fore, and Tim Pappas's car, and all those guys are kind of coalescing near the front. And in GTD, it literally is wherever they are cycled in their pit stop seems to be determine who leads. Like almost, there's probably 10 cars that have had a nice turn at the front there, but they're learning this car, what it likes, and so forth. They had a tough year last year. They struggled. They weren't nearly as competitive as they wanted to be, so they decided to make a change, and so far, so good.
I think only 2 podium finishes last year, 2 second-place finishes, Watkins Glen and Petit, and I think sometimes you need that change as much mentally as you do with literally having a new piece of equipment. The equipment seems to be so equal, but sometimes you just need kind of a fresh look, and it really kind of livens up the entire team.
Yep, total reset, and it's kind of like going on that New Year's diet.
I didn't do that.
I didn't either, clearly. But
GT cars now on pit road. You see those 2 bright yellow Corvettes leading the field in. The BMW 2, the stop just a little bit sooner, pitted a little further down pit lane. And this is the problem when team cars come in. You see those 2 Corvettes a little cattywampus, as we say down south, as they come in to hit their marks.
And this yellow, I noticed that the 28 Lamborghini was able to get back, I believe, on the lead lap. And so it's starting to shape up. It's pretty close to the pit wall here. And that's a little bit of a function of having it coming around his teammate. And a little bit, well, the fuel hose wasn't an issue on their side. They have the fuel hose go, or it might be, so they can get the fuel hose in from the other side and still keep the hose as short as possible.
And there's the Magnus Racing Audi that we were talking about. Rene Rast, Marco Seifried, John Potter, of course, the team owner, and Andy Lally. There is a lot of talent in that car and a lot of talent behind the wall. Lars Geersing and the boys always do such a great job, and down and away.
Much like Cal was saying earlier about Paul Dall'Anna has really turned into a really capable gentleman driver, much the same with John Potter.
22 car there, the WeatherTech Porsche, and when you look at that squad run by Alex Job Racing, another win here for Alex Job. It's on the horizon if they can stay out in front. A long way to go still, a lot of hard racing, but Alex Job, I don't even know for how long, has been fielding cars, and he's not only a race-winning master, but an endurance master. You look at the wins here, the wins at Sebring. If you want to win at Daytona, you want to win in an endurance race, you want to win in a GT Porsche, you go talk to Alex Job.
And Shane Van Gisberger had an amazing stint, took that car to the front last time, and we're going to see how it shapes up these last 4 hours.
Pit stops continuing. Car is heading back out on track. We'll get ready for green when we come back. You look at the heart of racing, Porsche out of the Alex Job stables. The number 23 damage to that car had been fixed with tie straps, and that's not going to hold, and he's going to have to come and fix that, Tommy.
I hate it when your tie-down strap holding your diffuser up comes loose.
On your $500,000 car.
But that's what you do here in Daytona.
Absolutely.
I mean, and those diffusers really are, especially on the GTLM cars, really a target. They're A, really effective, and B, pretty exposed.
And that's... I mean, obviously, it's a danger. You look at that. If it falls off, anybody who's ever used a tie-down strap, not only is the buckle heavy, even the hooks are heavy, and he gets up on the banking, even behind the safety car at 80 miles an hour or whatever, it's going to be a huge issue. So that car will have to visit pit road. They'll have that removed. Another car is going to have to come to pit road, we understand, for a speeding violation on pit lane. And this is not good news for BMW. It's the 25, Bruno Spengler, behind the wheel now, speeding. And it's interesting. You never know whether it was on the way in or the way out, especially when there's a driver change. It's like, which one of us did it? Well, it has to be the other guy, right?
Yeah, and I mean, that's just critical. Just they've kind of just kept themselves just hanging on. They haven't really had a big turn at the front, but they're totally in contention and just inching themselves into contention like they do every year here with Rahal Letterman, and that's a real gut blow.
Let's go down to Matt real quickly before we get back to green.
And they're going to have to bounce back from the pit road penalty. How was the car, Dirk, when you handed it off to Bruno?
The car's in good shape. We could stay close to the two Corvettes that were leading the race. So it's tough. I mean, I really had to push to do the same lap times as the Corvettes, but it's in good shape. You know, I think we have a good car for the end of the race, and that's what our plan was, just to be there in the last couple of hours, and now we can go racing.
Currently P4. Brian?
Field now coming through NASCAR 4, and that penalty, it's going to hurt, but there's time to go, obviously. 3 hours and 43 minutes and some change, so they've got time to work their way back up as we get ready to go back to green, and this is where so much of the excitement has been for the last 20 hours on these restarts. It gets wild and woolly, and right now the 5 of Felipe Albuquerque leads the field down, and he sets sight for turn 1.
And those cars behind him are going to really want to clear the slower traffic. The Taylor car and the Tequila Patrón car.
Oh, and both Corvettes stacked up behind the 50 prototype in there in turn 1 a little bit. Stevenson's Motorsports Audi is in there, the BMW of Spengler, and right behind him, the first of the Porsches. I believe it's the 912 with the black highlights, and this is where it all goes crazy.
The one Corvette got in too hot on the cold tires, but got off the brakes and got it to turn somehow.
Everybody makes it through the international horseshoe, then down towards the kink. Very fast section of racetrack and lock up on the 50 prototype as they come into the west horseshoe. It's David Hinton behind the wheel of that 50 right now, the highway to help entry. Now to turn 6, GTLM cars trying to get by, and this is where it gets tricky because that prototype is going to have some pretty good legs, but David Hinton is one of the Pro-Am drivers, so when you get to the corners, he's going to hold you up a little bit. And there you see the legs on the prototype.
He wants to be anywhere but there.
Oh, absolutely. You know, he didn't want to be there either.
Yeah, their goal in this race, they're in an older generation car, their goal is to run laps and try to finish. And so he doesn't want to mess anyone's race up or his own.
And now into the bus stop. You see the traffic jam again, one of the Ford GTs in there. Right behind them, Lamborghini Huracan. So great to see all the different manufacturers now in GT Daytona. Things settling down just a bit as Albuquerque will lead the field past the stripe first lap after the restart. And now, think about this. When did you start back timing this race? Other than 2 weeks ago, you had a strategy. You knew who you wanted to put in at the end, but every one of these full course cautions changes the whole outlook, does it not?
Yeah, there's two types of back timing going on. One is relative to driver rotation, and the other is the kind we see in almost every other, the shorter races. Basically, because full course cautions erase any gap the leaders have, you play a track position game. In those shorter races, you want to be as soon as the window opens to the end on fuel, you want to stop in case there's a yellow between you and when any of your other cars in your class pit, you get cycled to the front when they stop. Well, I'm not sure that the 5 hasn't been doing that for like the last 7 hours of this race, and you can't be totally exact about it, but you can run the math and say, okay, if it stayed green till the end, when is the soonest we could stop?
Oh, and more penalties being assessed. We understand the 4 Corvette, your leader in GT Le Mans, is going to get a penalty for running the red light at pit out. That is huge.
Well, the 25 will have some company to charge back through the field, but boy.
Absolutely huge. At the very beginning of the show, the guys were talking about not only how to win this race, but how to lose it. And that's one way to lose it. It's not just a drive-through.
Oh, stop and hold plus 60, which really is, I mean, it's hard to make up 30 seconds on the field as even as it is. Making up a minute 30 is that much tougher. The reality is without a yellow, they're not going to. With a yellow, they're still going to be less than a lap down.
And I'll tell you what, this is wise by Corvette Racing. A lot of teams would argue, they would say, wait, you know, and try to push for that penalty to be rescinded. They're looking at it, take our medicine now, get it out of the way and get back out there. The sooner we do it, the more time we have to make up for it.
And this.
All right, here are the 2 Corvettes leaving pit lane, 4 car out in front. And maybe this was the little pause, the hesitation that we saw at pit out. He began to slow down and it's hard to tell. The pit out closed light is just above the penalty box there. We can't see it from our side. but obviously should have been able to see it from their side. And the bad thing is, it's hard to say I didn't see it. It's about a 6-foot long light. Oh, and anytime we have these cautions and wave bys, it's an opportunity for penalties. Now understanding that 23 will get a stop and hold for over 3 minutes for an improper wave by. That's Mario Farnbacher in the heart of racing. Porsche from Alex Job Racing that we were talking about had the bodywork issue in the back.
It's basically a one-lap penalty. It's the one lap they got by getting wove by when they shouldn't, and it's one and a penalty so you don't do it again. So now, for more on Porsche, let's go to Chris Neville.
Yeah, Tommy, and I'm with Jens Walter, President and CEO of Porsche North America. And Jens, we've got a great race playing out here. Porsche has had 76 class victories over the years here at Daytona. You have the possibility of getting 2 more. How have you seen this race unfold?
I mean, at the moment, we are very pleased with the weekend itself, because we came here with 2.5 new cars. A brand new Cayman GT4 Club Sport, which was run in the Continental Series on Friday. A great result in the first race of the car internationally, really. We've never had a race right on the podium with CJ Wilson Racing. Great result. Also here with a brand new 911 GT3R, which we introduced here for the first time, first race. And, you know, having the car after more than 20 hours, all 5 cars, you know, still in the race, although the Park Place car is still in the pits, but we hope to have it out very soon. And also for the RSR, for our factory team, an upgraded 911 RSR. We're really happy that, you know, with having new cars, you're always a little bit excited. How is it working out? You know, you test it all winter long. You rolled it out all over the world, but nothing is like, you know, testing a car here at the race in Daytona. We're very pleased, and hopefully, you know, the last 3.75 of an hour, we will have hopefully good result here as well.
And you talk about that new GT3 or GT Daytona car being brand new. Do you come into a race like this thinking, hey, we can go for the win? Or like you said, it's a lot of testing?
We are sportsmen, you know, and our customers trust in us. They bought the cars from us to compete here in the series, and obviously we all come here to win. We have a long history in Daytona. Porsche has always been here with customers. We've always supported our customers. We have 5 teams here, and our support crew actually is within each team to make sure that, you know, if there's anything happening during the race, that we can immediately help. We come to a race to win. Our customers come to a race to win, but, you know, there's so many things going on. We had so many position changes over the night. Strong competition, the car well balanced, so it's really good racing and very close.
Yeah, and that competition in both classes, more manufacturers than ever in GT Le Mans and in GT Daytona. Are you just amazed at what we're seeing here this year?
Absolutely. I mean, this is what spectators want to see. They want to see cars they can relate to, they can see on the street, racing, competing here on the racetrack. And I mean, we have some of the best brands, the most prestigious brands racing against each other. This is really exciting for us.
Yeah, now it's just a sprint race.
It's exciting for everybody, and as Jens said, I mean, you look at the leaderboard in GTLM, and I'll just read you the makes as the 23 sits at pit out. That is absolutely brutal. It goes like this: Corvette, Ferrari, Porsche, BMW. That's the top 4 in GTLM. Take a look at this in GTD. Porsche, Audi, BMW, Aston Martin, Lamborghini, Ferrari, and Dodge Viper. Pretty stellar list of manufacturers. That's how intense the competition is here from the Rolex 24 at Daytona.